report. Shall we begin with correction of votes and proceedings? Let's start with page number 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page number 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page number 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page number 16. Page 17. Page 18. Yes, Honorable Member for Denta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, page 18, item 3 in attendance, Roman numeral V. It's written Mr. Dillis A.A. Daku. It's Mrs. Dillis A.A. Daku, Chief Executive Officer of Food and Drugs Authority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, table, please take note. Let's now turn to page number 19. Page 20. And finally, page 21. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the 29th sitting held yesterday, Tuesday, the 15th March 2022, are adopted as the true records of proceedings. Honorable members, we have the official report of March 3rd, 2022. Official report of March 3rd, 2022. I repeat, official report of March 3rd, 2022. Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report of March 3rd, 2022 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Shall we turn to item number 5 on today's order paper? That is questions time. Honorable Leader, are you beginning with the urgent questions?
Speaker, no. I'm on my feet to seek your leave for us to start with questions advertised in the name of the Minister for Trade and Industry, because all the other questions we've received communication from the ministers relevant that they are on their way here and confident they'll be here soon. So we should start from 410, question 410, through to question 963, all for the Minister of Trade and Industry.
Very well. So, honorable members, let's turn to the addendum paper. All the questions for the Minister for Trade is on addendum paper. So, Honorable Minister, you may take your seat. And let me begin with Honorable... Whose entry is not here? Well, let me start with Honorable Member for Kumewu, Honorable Philip Baswa. Honorable, the Minister is available. You may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister responsible for Trade and Industry when the Technology Solutions Center, as part of the 1D, 1F project in Seche Kumewu district, will be commenced.
Very well. Yes, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the commission of the Kumewu Technology Solutions Center is tentatively scheduled for June 2022. Currently, arrangements are being made to acquire high voltage transformer that will power the equipment and machinery at the center. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Honorable Philip Baswa, do you have any supplementary question?
Okay, right on, Mr. Speaker. I want to know the number of job opportunities that the center is going to be created after its commencement.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is envisaged that 50 direct jobs and 96 indirect jobs will be created through the activities of the Technology Solutions Center. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Minister, are you okay? Honorable Member, are you okay?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I'm okay with the question.
Okay with the answer. Very well. So, shall we turn to... I think this is constituency specific, right? So, what?
Mr. Speaker, I have the authority of Honorable Bodo to ask his question, and with your leave, if I may, after this one has been exhausted.
I'll come back, but I've said this over and over again. We are revisiting the same issue. Anyway, let me come to Honorable Member for Nabda. Honorable Member for Nabda, Honorable Dr. Mark Nawani. Honorable, you may ask your question. The Minister is waiting for your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry the reasons for the delay by government to fulfill their promise of assisting pharmaceutical companies pay the interest on their loans as participants of the 1D, 1F program.
Very well. Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since the inception of the 1D, 1F program, the government, through the Ministry of Trade and Industry, has to a large extent ensured the timely release of funds as interest subsidies to de-risk the loans provided by the participating financial institutions to beneficiary companies, including the pharmaceutical companies under reference. Mr. Speaker, any delays that have occurred in the payment of interest subsidies could be attributed to either delays in the release of funds from the Ministry of Finance or delays in the processing of applications of the 1D1F companies by the PFIs. In the case of the latter, once processing is completed by the PFIs, the Ministry authorizes the release of interest subsidies to support the 1D1F companies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Honorable, any further question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the Minister's answer, he wants to attribute the delays either to the Ministry of Finance or late processing of applications. From his point of view, what is he going to do to correct this anomaly? Because practically the pharmaceutical companies are being asked to service these loans themselves, thus dislocating their financial management. So what is he going to do to accelerate this process such that it doesn't occur that these releases are late, because they are part of a program and they only decided to participate in it because of these incentives?
Minister, did you get the question? You got the question? Okay, let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, in respect of the release of funds from the Ministry of Finance, I think the honourable member himself is aware of the fact that releases from the Ministry of Finance are based on the availability of funds from our revenue sources. So as and when the Ministry of Finance is disposed to provide the releases, and they do so very often on time, we would also would authorize the release to the companies. In respect of the latter cause for the delays, which is the processing of applications, respectfully, honourable member, it does not lie within my power to determine the speed at which the banks will process these applications. The loans are given to the companies by the PFIs, and they determine at what point that they are in a position to advance the loans. It's only when the loans are advanced that the interest subsidies kick in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. No. Any further question?
I don't know whether we are on the same wavelength. I mean, my question and then that of the minister. Is he saying that the loans are processed by the financial institutions, isn't it? Is that what he's saying?
So hold on.
Yeah.
Are you saying you didn't get his answer?
I didn't get his answer properly. Because is he saying that the loans are being processed by the financial institutions? Is that what he's saying? And that he cannot influence it. What I'm talking about is the interest payment.
Interest payment?
Yes, after the loans have been processed. The problem is the interest payment. And the interest payment is supposed to come from the government. The government is supposed to be able to influence that one.
Minister, can you explain it better for honourable member to understand?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would encourage the honourable member to try and understand the basis for the release of interest subsidies. Applications go to the financial institutions And because they are taking the risk on the loans, they go through their normal processing arrangements. So it is only when they approve the loan application that it triggers the issue of subsidy. And then at that point, government puts in the interest subsidy. So the fundamental obligation rests with the financial institution to determine whether or not they want to grant the loan. So it is only when they grant the loan that the interest is triggered. And it's only when the interest is triggered that the subsidy is triggered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, Honorable, I hope you've understood the answer very well. So, any further questions? Yes, Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Honorable Minister for Trade and Industry that the matter raised by the Honorable Dr. Ketnawani about interest payment. I'm aware that government sourced a loan to pay that interest as risk. Is that the case? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister, did you get the question? Or you should come again? You got the question very well.
You remember the amount?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of the government sourcing a loan to pay interest subsidies. What I am aware of is that in our annual submissions to the Ministry of Finance, as part of our budget application process, we make requests for provisions to be made for interest subsidies. So I am not in a position to confirm whether the source for the interest subsidies is a loan or it comes from revenue sources.
Mr. Speaker,
Leader,
this will be my
I'm giving you the
yes,
other than that.
for indulging me. The Minister for Trade and Industry, in some formal correspondence to this House and to the Committee of Trade and Industry, alluded to the fact that some 200 million Ghana cedis, some 269 million Ghana cedis was used to service this interest. Is that the case?
Leader, let me hear you.
Speaker, I thank you for recognizing me. I heard the minority leader say some formal communication. That is out of place. And it's a house of record. He should be specific. I mean, I am not against a question to the minister. But for you to allege that some formal communication, then you must be specific. You must be specific, the kind of communication. Otherwise, you should withdraw that and go ahead and ask your question. Making reference to a communication that you cannot be specific about will be very wild and inappropriate. Speaker, so I seek your guidance. Either we demand of our respected leader to provide further and better particulars of his formal communication, or the formal communication is making reference to, or he withdraw that part of his question and then go ahead and ask a specific question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rose because the minority leader was not wrong. In fact, in the 2022 budget statement, the minister stated that to date 2.696 billion has been granted by participating financial institutions as loans. And then he goes on to say that to date, a total of 269 million has been disbursed by government as interest subsidy support to the risk private participating financial institutions loans to 1D, 1F. That's what the minority was alluding to. This is the budget statement. Yes.
Well. If
Speaker, I'm not
Hold on.
contesting it. Speaker, if you permit me, I'm not. I see him referencing a document. He should table that document. What budget? That is his view. I don't accept that. If there is a budget, provide that budget. That is not a budget statement. That is not a budget statement. That is a document you have prepared yourself. It's a document you have carved. So table it. That is not a budget. I put it to you that is not a budget.
hold on, please.
It is not the budget.
Let's calm down. Minority Leader, what document are you holding?
Mr. Speaker, is report of the Committee of Trade and Industry and Tourism on the 2022 annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Mr. Speaker,
the answer said that you already have it in the house, so you don't need to lay it.
Honorable members, please.
No, but, Speaker, for the abundance of caution, I'll table it and ask my colleague to withdraw the word allege. I don't allege. If I'm not sure, I won't speak. When I stood up, my first was to tease the minister. It was deliberate. I wanted to tease him to see. Yeah, it was deliberate so that
Honorable Leader.
You don't determine what I do.
Honorable
Mr.
Leader,
Speaker,
the question
this
has been
is from the budget statement of the minister, and this is his own submission to Parliament. I just want to know the source of the money. Was it just allocation from Ministry of Finance or a loan?
Well.
So, Mr. Speaker, do I table it?
Well. Let me. Oh, please.
Speaker, in this house, I would defer and show deference to colleagues. What I said is not to show any disrespect to them. I want to please on record, I'm not showing disrespect to the minority leader. Not on any day would I disrespect him. So if he's offended by the word allege, unreservedly, Speaker, I withdraw that part. But I'm saying that to the extent that what I saw from my friend, Jonabu Bua, it wasn't the budget statement. You said budget statement. What you just tabled is not the budget statement. So let's get the facts right. Let's get the fact right. That is not the budget statement. And you had said a budget statement. So, Leader, you don't have to be offended.
Well, Leader,
you don't have to be offended about this.
Please. Leader, the minister, the essence of what is going on is to allow the minister to respond.
Speaker, you see, impugning the integrity of a colleague should not be encouraged. He used the word allege on me. I'm comfortable with it. I can live with it. But now when he wants to play semantics of budget statement and annual budget estimates, pick your original copy of what was delivered by the Honorable Minister for Finance. At committee level, what committee does is to review budget estimates. I didn't quote 259. I quoted below. I said 200 because I had read the report. I'm interested, and you know, I'm interested in what you do. I'm interested in what you do as Minister for Trade. I've stepped into your shoes, stepped out of it, you step back. You are now stepping higher. Whilst I wish you well, we want to know where you got money to finance the interest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader, please.
No, please, with all respect, our colleague and our respected leader, when he was pushed, he said he was deferring to the Honorable Bua. So it wasn't clear to me, and the document I saw, with all respect, it wasn't the budget statement. So I was saying that was not the budget statement. That is all I said. It was not to show any disrespect or engage in any undue semantics. That was not what I said.
Well, please. No. I'm not giving. Rich, I'm not giving anybody. Minister, let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record, and what I would propose is that I address the matter that was raised by the Honorable Minority Leader, whether or not it was from the budget statement or for a committee's report. He wanted to know whether the amount of money used to finance the subsidies was sourced from a loan facility or not. And, Honorable Speaker, I said that I'm not aware that that amount was sourced from a loan. Whereupon he referenced a document to establish the basis for the question that he asked. And what he read does not support the question that he had raised. Because what you read was very clear on the face of the record. It was very clear. It says that the PFIs have extended loan facilities to a certain amount. And government has provided subsidies to de-risk the loans that have been extended to the companies. How does this become an issue as to whether the amount of the subsidies was sourced from a loan or not? That is the point that I want to address. Thank you.
Yes. You didn't hear what you didn't hear. Yes, Rich, let me hear you. Oh no, let him talk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, reading through the answer provided by the Minister at page 7 of the document, I'll quote, Mr. Speaker, as of December 2021, a total amount of 156,915,494.60 pesos out of the 273,055,513 Ghana cedis has been disbursed to the PFIs, to the following beneficiaries, and the name has been listed. So if you do
Rich, you are addressing the chair. Please go ahead. What?
Mr. Speaker, my attention has been drawn that this will be another answer to a different
So you are abandoning the question?
No, I'm holding on. So when he gets there, I'll ask my substantive question. Thank you very much.
Very well. So now let's turn to question number 912. Question number 912. And the question stands in the name of a member for Upper Menya Krobo. Upper Menya Krobo. Honorable Bismarck Tetenyako. Yes, Honorable, let's hear you.
Thank you so much, Speaker. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister, what plans has his ministry to build the Cassava factory at Sekeswa under the 1D, 1F initiative? Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, George Russell Company Limited applied under the 1D1F program to establish a cassava processing factory at Sekeswa in the Upper Menya Krobo district. The ministry has facilitated the process of securing a loan facility for the said company from one of the participating financial institutions. Mr. Speaker, in this regard, a loan facility was approved by the PFI for the company, but the promoter is yet to provide, which is a pre-disbursement condition for the grant of the loan. So, Speaker, the ministry continues to engage both the PFI and the beneficiary company to satisfy the pre-disbursement conditions. Thank you, Mr.
Yes. Honorable Member, any further question?
Yes, Speaker, I thank the Minister for the response, but I want to find out from the Minister whether he knows the registered office of this company, where the office of this company is located, whether you have.
Honorable Member, there are a lot of meetings going on. Please, let's listen to the question. Yes, may you repeat your question, please?
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to find out from the Minister whether he knows where the registered office of this company is located.
Minister, did you get a question? You wanted to know whether you know that. Is it the location?
Yes, Honorable Speaker, of the registered office of this Roselle Company Limited.
Please, I don't think the company that is applying for the facility, you are asking the minister whether he knows the location.
Yes, Speaker.
Oh, no, I wouldn't admit this question. Ask another question, please.
Speaker, thank you. That will be all for now.
Very well. Then this is constituency specific, so we move to question number 9 says 2. Question number 9 says 2. And the question stands, the member for Esikuma Odobin Brakwa, Honorable Alasan Kobina Gansa. Honorable, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry what plans the Ministry is instituting to enable the Empire Cement Company Limited begin operation under the 1D1F to enable the company address some of the unemployment situation in the country.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Empire Cement Company Limited in October 2020 applied to be considered under the 1D1F initiative. In reviewing the application, a few issues were identified which required consultations with the Environmental Protection Agency. After the consultation exercise, the EPA issued a report which inter alia stated as follows, and I quote, "The agency received an application from Empire Cement Ghana Limited requesting for approval to construct and operate a cement factory at Wager Junction near Pambros Salt. Empire Cement subsequently, in compliance with the directive of the agency, undertook a scoping exercise and submitted a report and a draft TOR for approval, and later submitted the environmental impact statement. The agency, upon reviewing the EIS and considering the concerns of key stakeholders, found the project not to be compatible with the adjoining land users, and then communicated to the company that the project could not be sited at the proposed site. Empire Cement Ghana Limited, upon receipt of the communication from the agency not to approve the construction and operation of the cement factory, reapplied to the agency to change the project scope from cement production to cement bags manufacture. The EPA reviewed the second application and requested the company to undertake a preliminary environmental assessment for the cement paper bags manufacture. The company complied and submitted a preliminary environmental report, which was reviewed, approved, and a permit subsequently issued. It was later observed that the company had installed equipment and facilities to produce cement instead of the approved cement bags manufacturing. The Environmental Protection Agency therefore revoked the permit issued to Empire Cement to produce cement paper bags. We wish to indicate that the agency has not permitted Empire Cement to manufacture cement on the site next to the Pablo salt, but rather permitted Empire Cement to produce cement bags on that site, since that activity, that is cement paper bags manufacturing, is compatible with adjoining land uses. End of quote. Mr. Speaker, in line with the determination by the Environmental Protection Agency, the Ministry has withheld approval of granting the 1D1F status to the said company, awaiting a resolution of all outstanding issues in respect of that project. I thank you, Mr.
Yes, very well. Yes, Honorable Member for Odobin. Come again.
Esikuma
Odobin Brapa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the Minister whether he has cited the report by the Committee of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation. The report from Committee of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation, whether he has cited the report.
Minister, have you cited the EP? Is it EPA or is it EPA report?
Mr. Speaker,
or the ministry?
I remember the stakeholders that the minister stated in his response. They petitioned the Parliament, and it was referred to the ministry, the Committee of Science, Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation. And I'm asking whether he has cited their report.
Honorable Minister, have you cited any report from committee of this House?
Mr. Speaker, I have not cited the report of the committee of this House. The reference I've made is a quote from the report of the environmental. Thank you, Mr.
Yes. Honorable, any further?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I would like to ask the Minister whether he himself or any official from the ministry had visited the factory to obtain a first-hand information to reach a decision.
Yeah, Minister, did you get the question? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the officials of the ministry have paid regular visits to the site. Mr. Speaker, respectfully, it does not lie within our authority to make a judgment on the application, whether it is right or not. We go by the recommendation of the Environmental Protection Agency. Thank you.
Very well. Okay, let me give you a last lot.
Yeah, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since the company had invested so much and ready to take off with the capacity of employing over 500 people, what plans can the ministry put in place to assist in a smooth takeoff of the company?
Minister, what plans can you put in place to assist the smooth takeoff of that factory?
Mr. Speaker, if the company is granted the right and authority to undertake the activities that they are interested in undertaking, then the ministry will provide all the support that is required under the 1D1F regime to assist the company to operate successfully. Thank you.
Honourable members, let's turn to question number 963. Question number 963. Yes, Honorable, do you wanted to say something?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
in the written section of on the Minister's response, 962, in the third paragraph, the word used there is adjourning, and I just wanted clarification whether the word that was meant to be there is adjoining, as in next to, as opposed to adjourning, as it's spelled there.
Yeah, Minister, is wanted to know the adjoining properties or something like that.
Mr. Speaker, it's adjoining. It's supposed to be adjoining. Thank you.
Very well. We turn to question number 963. 963.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But you should wait for me to call you first. You are too anxious to ask your question. Yes, Honorable Member for Elembele. Let me now invite you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister of Trade and Industry how much government through the ministry disbursed as interest subsidy payments to finance 1D1F companies and projects, the names of the beneficiaries, companies, and the amount disbursed as interest subsidy to each of these companies. Thank you.
Respectfully, Mr. Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, the government through the Ministry of Trade and Industry disbursed an amount of 273,055,513 cedis, 83 pesos, to the following participating financial institutions between the period 2017 and 2021 for the payment of interest subsidies to the risk loans granted to the beneficiary companies by the PFIs under the One District, One Factory initiative. Mr. Speaker, I am not sure whether the practice here is to go through the list, or since it's a matter of record and is before the House, whether the honorable members would have a look at the list. It's a tall list, because the question specifically requested names of the companies and the associated PFIs, and the list is provided as requested. So I need your guidance.
Minister, I think you may now skip it, but you leave the list with us, so that members who are desirous to go through the list can have it. But for want of time, just keep the list and just answer the questions.
Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, so the remaining balance of 110,732,211 cedis, 23 pesos, which is held by the following PFIs, and the list is also provided, will be drawn down as and when interest payments associated with the repayment of the loan facilities are due, and the list is also provided. So, in summary, Mr. Speaker, an amount of 273,055,513 cedis, 83 pesos, is provided, and as of December 2021, a total amount of 156,915,494 cedis, 60 pesos, out of the earlier amount just quoted, has been disbursed by the PFIs to the companies that have been listed in my response. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Elembele. Any further questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me put it on record that as the ranking member on Trade and Industry, I had a difficult time getting the ministry to give the committee the list of these beneficial companies. That was the reason why I asked the minister the question. We probably wouldn't have gotten here, but that's for the record. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the minister states that out of the 273 million that was given as interest subsidy to back the two. Originally it was 2.69 billion, right? And now it's gone to 273. Well, it was 269 million. I suspect that it's going to 273 million. Is that what? Okay. So, in the minister's answer, we still have an amount of 110 million that has not been disbursed. And this is government money that we have given the banks. We gave this, I don't know the exact period that we gave this money to the banks. But the real concern for this committee was that we have given this whole amount of 273 million to the banks, and we are saying that we are interested in the 1D, 1F and the companies that are taking the loans. The interest is too high, so we want to basically give this money to lower the interest rates. Now,
Honourable member, please ask the question.
I'm making my point because...
No.
So, Mr. Speaker...
You are not here to give just ask question. We brought the minister to answer questions, so just ask the question.
In the minister's answer, he says that 40,407,000 was also given to the Exim Bank. And he has listed companies that benefited from the Exim Bank. The question that I have, is this Exim Bank payment also interest subsidy payments or not? That's the first one. The second question.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, the payment made to Exim Bank was intended to assist them in the extension of facilities to the companies. That was the purpose of the amount given to Exim Bank. Because Exim Bank is a state bank, as it were, and we have provided that amount of money to support them either in giving interest subsidies or adding to the liquidity of Exim Bank to support the companies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Boy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other follow-up question I have is that, is government getting interest on the 110 outstanding money that the banks are holding? 101 million. Is government getting interest on that amount? Because the whole idea, and I don't know the date that this money was given to the bank, was stated that this amount has already been disbursed to the banks. So the question I have is that the 101 million, that is with the banks. Is government accruing interest on it? And how much interest are we accruing? If you don't have that, we can give you time to provide it.
Honourable Ranking Member, I will ask you to file a separate question with respect to this particular request. So, if you are desirous to get the interest on all those what we are, then please file a separate question. Let me come to you, Honourable Member for Bori. Nobody, are you his lawyer?
He became this thing. He's lobbying for.
Speaker, in the minister's answer, we also note that he gave 10 million to the Commander Sugar Development Corporation. I also want to know whether it's also part of the interest subsidy payment or a different type of payment.
Yes, Minister.
Honourable Speaker, the amount that has been extended to the Commander Sugar Company is a payment made by the banks as a direct loan facility from the resources that have been provided to the bank, but not as interest subsidy, because the Commander Sugar Factory is in a state of distress and would not normally qualify for a loan going through the normal appraisal process. And so the bank agreed to extend that the amount of money to the Commander Sugar Factory, and then they would monitor their repayment as appropriate.
No.
So that cannot be classified.
No. Let me come to Bali Bamboy.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful. Mr. Speaker, just for clarification, the question was for the minister to provide information with respect to interest subsidy. And the minister is talking about amount of money disbursed to Commander Sugar Factory. Can the minister reconcile this? Just for clarification.
Honourable
My question
member,
is,
I don't think the one who asked the question is saying the minister didn't answer. So if you want to ask your question, ask your question. Don't make reference to an earlier question with the view that...
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided.
Leader, let me ask this question.
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided. Mr. Speaker, from the minister's answer.
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, this is a supplementary question. So it flows from both the answer of the minister and questions that have been asked, because it's a supplementary.
Very well, Leader, I'm aware. But the way he was coming from, it appears the earlier question that was asked the minister didn't answer the question. So I was expecting that the one who asked the question, if the minister didn't answer the question, that's another thing. So you are a separate person. You can ask your own question. Don't try to...
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided. I'll file a question. You know, the minister is my body. Mr. Speaker, in his answer, in the first paragraph, he said that an amount of 273,055.055,513.83 was disbursed to participating financial institutions. What it means is that this money is sitting with these banks. And as and when a facility is approved, then an interest is paid to the participating financial institution. The question I want to find out is, this huge amount of money sitting with these banks, are they paying interest to governments? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would advise that the honourable member takes a little bit of time to understand the principles underpinning the program. We have a gift-miss system that is used to disburse funds from central government to government entities. In this particular case, under no funds can be disbursed directly. The funds have to be disbursed directly to the participating financials, which have been listed by the ministry as the PFIs that are loan facilities to the 1B1F companies. So we have no role in this, up to the ministry. The monies go from the central fund to the participating financial institutions. As and when they approve loan applications, as I indicated earlier on, it triggers the payment of interest. When a loan is granted to the company has to pay interest. It is at that point that the interest subsidy is also triggered. So the money that is lodged with them is lodged as an interest subsidy that is paid to de-risk the loan that has been extended to the companies. So we have no role in that, respectfully. Thank you, Mr.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker, he said the Minister of Trade disbursed.
My
Minister
brother,
of Trade
my
disbursed
brother,
the money.
have I called you?
So I made reference to your own statement.
My brother, have I called
the
you?
Minister of Finance.
Honorable member for Boliban Boy, I haven't called you. Let me come to Bodhi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the answer given by the Honourable Minister, you can see that Prudential Bank got 80 million Ghana cedis. Fidelity got 90,000 Ghana cedis. SGFSB 638. Can the minister tell us the criteria used for the banks to benefit from this? For a bank to be selected to benefit under this program?
Yes, Minister. You wanted to know the criteria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm still struggling to make an effort to encourage honorable members to try and understand the principles underpinning this program. An application is made to a bank for a loan by a 1D1F company. Now, the bank would process the application based on its own criteria. The bank that is going to take the risk is the bank that decides whether to extend the loan or not. Once the bank decides to extend or approve a loan, it triggers the payment of interest. It is at that point that the issue of interest subsidy is also triggered. So it is not a question of the ministry dictating Bank A getting this amount of subsidy or not. It depends on the applications that are approved by the various banks. Respectfully, that is the basis. I have no role in determining how much the banks give to each of the company, because they are taking the risk. These are funds that the banks hold as part of their loan portfolios, and they decide how much money to give to each applicant. We are only providing a subsidy to de-risk the loans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the last question. Leader, I'll come to you. Leader, I'll come to you. Let me, Richard.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, referring to the answer provided by the Minister at page 6 and 7 of the order paper, I see 15 financial institutions selected, 15. But if you come to the disbursement of the remainder of the 101.7 million, if you add back Exim Bank, you see that Standard Chartered Bank has been taken off the list. I just want to find out from the Minister if there are some reasons why Standard Chartered Bank has been taken off from the disbursement of the 101.7 million, if there are, he can share with us. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the banks that have been listed with amounts associated with them amounting to 101,732,211.23 are the banks that are currently holding amounts of money that will be used to further the risk loans that they have granted to the companies. So any bank that is listed there is listed only because they are still going to apply the funds with them to de-risk the loans in terms of interest subsidies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, let me, please. We need to restrict the time. You've taken a lot, so let me come to
This is a very important question, and I'll be very grateful, Mr. Speaker, you let us dedicate some time to address, because most of the supplementary answers that the Minister gave, I'm sorry to say, is not clear. And let me start first, Mr. Speaker, by saying that if you read the answer he provided in 963, clearly the Minister says the ministry disbursed. That's the word there. The Ministry of Trade disbursed. And that's the second line in the Minister's answer, where he said, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, Mr. Speaker, the government, through the Ministry of Trade and Industry, disbursed. So meaning, Mr. Speaker, these are given to the banks ahead of the disbursement to the various companies. That's what this means. And Mr. Speaker, to buttress it, to support what I'm saying is that is why you're on the last page, on page 15, you have a list of banks that are still holding some of the money that has been disbursed to them. So, Mr. Speaker, now the question that he was asked, what is the criteria of the disbursement such that Ghana Commercial Bank, the largest bank that we have in this country, is rather having 50 million. And you have Prudential Bank, one of the smallest banks that we have, is rather disbursed with 80 million. And Mr. Speaker, you have an insurance company, not a bank. Funniest. It's an insurance company, not a bank. It's giving 25 million to disburse. So, Mr. Speaker, we want to know what informed the disbursement of these various amounts, so that you have big banks like Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, that is government, had only 3 million. Then you can have an insurance company that is having 25 million, and you have one of the smallest banks we have, Prudential, having 80 million. Then you have UMB, also one of the smallest banks, also having 20 million. Definitely, Mr. Speaker, the minister needs to provide the criteria that inform the decision to do this disbursement. So that would be my first question to the Minister.
Yes, Minister. Can you explain?
Mr. Speaker, the very respected leader, in his original statement, seemed to suggest that the ministry is disbursing. When you were reading, you read that the government, through the ministry, is disbursing. And I've explained very respectfully. The honorable member needs to understand the mechanics of government financial management. The government uses a give-me system to disburse funds directly to beneficiary, in this case PFIs. And the ministry is required to provide a list of companies that would apply to these financial institutions. So the use of the word disburse is reflecting the disbursement from the central government fund to as the gift miss requires. So I'm not sure what the leader is seeking to understand. Whether your inquiry is in respect of the word disburse, but why not? Because that's what is the case. The government disburses on behalf of the Ministry of Trade and Industry those funds to the participating financial institutions, and that's the system. And so if a bank is holding funds that have been disbursed to them, and from financial practice and banking practice, every year you pay interest on the amount outstanding. So obviously, if there is a principal part of the balance outstanding, you hold that interest subsidy and you apply it as and when the interest is due. So I would encourage, as I keep on saying, I encourage members to try and understand what they are asking about, because it is clear, it has nothing to do with the ministry. This is regular banking practice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, you and I know the give-me system very well. Government, Mr. Speaker, with the greater respect to the minister, is not an abstract thing that moves in the air. Government acts through its agencies. Yes. And in this instance, is the Minister of Trade. And Mr. Speaker, government give-me system will not transfer money until the action has been done, as you and I are aware. So if it is what the minister is trying to explain, you will not have these balances sitting in the bank, because it will be only as and when the company has been given the okay, and then there's this 10% government needs to pay, that money will then be paid. There will be no balances sitting at the individual banks. Mr. Speaker, let me just leave there because I just realized that probably the minister either he doesn't want to answer that or maybe we are not understanding each other very well. But Mr. Speaker, when you look at page 10, if you look at page 10, there's NS Chemist Limited. And Mr. Speaker, they have been so far giving 10,393,573 Ghana cedis, 96 pesos. Mr. Speaker, from the minister's earlier answers, where government is only taking 10% of the 20% that the banks are charging, it means that NS Chemist was giving close to what do you call it, a little over 100 million. And therefore, that's what attracted the interest, the 10% that government is paying of about 10.3. Mr. Speaker, you and I know NS Chemists have been in existence long ago. And if under this initiative, NS Chemists will be given over 100 million. I want to find out the minister's justification. And also in link with this, Mr. Speaker, if you look at page 12, Sugar Development Company Limited, item 70, Commander and the Prudential were given 23,550,000, and the same commander on the 77 at item 77, Commander Sugar Development Corporation again under consolidated, what is it, CBG? That's is it Consolidated Bank of Ghana? Also 10 million. If you put the two, you are getting Commander Sugar Development Company being disbursed the interest of 10% over 33.5 million, meaning Commander Sugar Factory Development Corporation has been given over 330 million to warrant that an interest 10% will be over 33 million. Mr. Speaker, can the minister provide the answer to why Commander is getting a loan of over 330, NS getting over 100 million, and you have Western Steel Forging Limited also having to be given over 100 million, and then Innovation and Manufacturing Limited also under finance also giving over 70 million. Mr. Speaker, you could see that some of the companies are giving excessively huge amount of money. Can the minister tell us why under the one district, one factory, a support to these existing companies will be this huge? Can the minister provide this answer to us?
Yes, Minister, let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, regrettably, a very good friend, the Honorable Leader, is still failing to understand the principles underpinning this program. On what basis are you questioning the size of the company such as NS Chemist? So he applies to a bank. Currently, he's undertaking a WHO GMP global standard factory that can produce a wide range of medications. And the project costs about $50 million US. $50 million US. And if they apply to a bank to seek a loan as part of this investment cost, and they are a one-to-one company, and we provide an interest subsidy for part of the loan, what is the problem associated with that? It's the size of the company. Is the honorable member worried about the size of the company or about the interest subsidy that is being used to support it? That's number one. To an earlier question in respect of Commander Sugar Factory, I think I explained that in the case of Commander Sugar Factory, because a company in distress, and I thought that I had made this clear enough, the bank is providing a direct loan. It's not an interest subsidy. in the case of the Commander Sugar Factory, because it is a distressed company, and we all know and understand the basis of their distress. It's not a matter for on this platform. And so you are construing that to be an interest subsidy. But that is not the case at all. All the others that you are putting, it's either a direct on-lending and not an interest subsidy. Or if it is an interest subsidy, then it depends on the size of the project. And it's not the ministry that determines the size of the project. The promoter applies to the bank, and if the bank approves it, and we think that they satisfy the requirements of the 1D1F, I believe that it is appropriate for us to support companies, whether existing or new companies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Leader, I beg you.
This is the very last one.
Leader.
I beg you. This is the very last one. This guy, I appreciate your endurance to cope with leadership. I was looking, this will be the very last one. The minister is telling us that you take public money, you and us money, that you are going to disburse. There's no limit, regardless of the size. You can come for $10 billion. Public money will be used to support you. That's what we are saying, that there will be no limit. All what matters is that the bank approves your loan and then will give the counterpart this thing. I don't think that's the best way to use public money. But lastly, Mr. Speaker, on page 12, when he was providing the details for the 14 million under Exim Bank, he did not provide how much each of the companies got. And Speaker, if you look at the question, it was requiring the details every company got, just as he did in his first and second and few tables, where he provided the details. In this particular instance, he did not provide the details of how much they have gotten. Is the minister minded to provide those details for the 14 million under the Exim Bank, how much each of these companies got? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Lydia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised at our leader. I'm surprised that our leader would decide to pick on an indigenous Ghanaian pharmaceutical company that is doing so well to support this economy. A company that employs over thousands of Ghanaians. There are so many other companies that has also benefited. My beef is about him picking on an indigenous Ghanaian company.
Leader, so what is your point? Okay, Minister, if you may
allow her. Oh, please.
He shouldn't pick on a Ghanaian.
Mr. Speaker, I find it unfortunate and totally inappropriate for the leader to suggest that the ministry does not vet the applications that are submitted to it and approves just on the basis of the fact that a bank has approved it. I don't think that is appropriate. And if you've misunderstood me, I do not think that it is right for you to make that statement. This is a house of record, and I need to correct you. Mr. Speaker, I've made the point, and it's very clear. We are supporting companies to create jobs.
Honorable members, please, let's give attention to the minister. He's answering very important questions, please.
We are supporting companies to create jobs. A company goes through the screening process of the ministry. If an approval is given in principle to the company to be qualified as a 1D1F company, subsequently they are referred to a bank. And I'm not sure that the leader is suggesting that if a company of a certain size comes through the ministry's screening process and subsequently is able to attract a loan facility, that we should not provide that support to it, if we believe that they have gone through the necessary criteria. So we may be talking about the same thing. But the point is that I want to put it on record that it is not correct for you to suggest that once the bank approves any amount, we do not review that application and then provide the interest subsidy. So we work together with the banks, and if we feel that it's an appropriate investment and it would create the jobs, help with the import substitution and export, we will support the company. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker. I indicated in my response to an earlier question that in respect of Exim, we have provided an amount of 40 million to help them improve their liquidity. So basically, they can provide the list of companies and the associated amounts. Yes, it is not the ministry that decides. It's Exim Bank, is the bank. So we can provide that. That information is available. That information is available. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. So, honorable members, please. Let's tolerate a bit. So we turn to question page 1 on the addendum. Question number 410. Question number 410 stands in the name of a member for Ho Central, Honorable Benjamin Komlapodo. Honorable, you may ask your question now.
Very sincerely, Mr. Speaker. I was at the time arranging something else. Oh, you too. I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry how much the ministry has realized from fees charged in respect of export permit processing and issuance for export of non-ferrous scrap metal from 2017 to 2021.
Respectfully, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the ministry realized an amount of 1,134,190 Ghana cedis, 67 pesos, from a total of 94 permits issued for the period between 2017 and 2021 for the export of non-ferrous scrap metal at a fee rate of 0.25% of the FOB price per consignment. This was in line with the exportation of non-ferrous metal regulations 2010, LI 1969. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Podo, any supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, that would have sort of helped. The minister is very well aware that there is a legal regime under which fees and charges can be levied. What legal authority forms the basis for charging this fee which he is responding to?
Honorable Minister, did you get the question? Honorable Podo, may you repeat your question, please?
I am asking the minister, what is the legal authorization for the imposition of this fee which he has levied from 2017 to date?
You've got the question.
Mr. Speaker, the response indicates that the fees were in line with the exportation of non-ferrous metal regulations 2010, LI 1969.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, the minister knows that PFM, Public Financial Management Act, specifies that when you want to levy a fee or a charge, you should apply to the Minister for Finance, who will then process it through Parliament for approval before you can levy that fee under the fees and charges miscellaneous LI. But he has not done that. When he appeared before our committee, the Finance Committee, it was clear that this fee was not covered in the running LI. That's why I'm asking him why he is he has levied that fee. There is no legal regime.
Yes, Minister.
The honourable member may be minded to appreciate the fact that the LI that has been referenced lies in the belly of the Fees and Charges Act. And that's the basis for the charge of the have been exacted.
Very well. Honourable members.
Mr. Speaker, please, what the Minister is telling the House isn't correct. It's a violation of the PFM Act, Public Financial Management Act, at 921. He is now submitting these fees for approval with the Finance Committee. So he has been charging the fees before even submitting it for approval. That is the crux of the matter.
He shall rationalize it. He shall rationalize it. So, do you have any further question?
So how are these fees collected, even though they are illegal?
Honorable, I said we shall rationalize it. Now you yourself is saying you should now place it. You made reference to the fact that you are now under consideration. Didn't you say that? So I think we will rationalize.
2017 to date, which I want to be put on record that it's collecting illegal fees.
Well noted. This, Honorable, very well. So, Honorable Minister, on behalf of the House, let me thank you very much for attending upon the House to answer about 5, 6, 7 separate questions. You are hereby discharged. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, we can now take questions advertised in the name of the Minister for Works and Housing. However, Speaker, originally there were 2 questions. The Minister has written officially to the table office, and copies of these letters have been given to us. So he will be providing answers to question 836 in the name of Dr. Kobna Donko, Member of Parliament for Plea East, whilst they work on information to the other question. So he's answering one question in the name of Dr. Kobna Donko.
Very well. Honorable Member for Plea East, Honorable Dr. Kobna Donko, the Minister for Works and Housing is available now. You may ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Works and Housing when remedial works will be conducted to relieve the Chiripo and other parts of the Yeji Township from perennial flooding.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Works and Housing is aware of the increasing risk of flooding across the country. Many communities that were not known to be prone to flooding are now experiencing flooding. The major factors that have accounted for this development, this devastating situation, are: 1, climate change, uncontrolled development, poor waste management practices, and poor drainage structures and undersized culverts. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Works and Housing, through the Hydrological Service Department, collates data on flooding incidents across the country towards prioritizing drainage basins for developing and implementing flood mitigation projects through the annual flood control program. Mr. Speaker, despite the significant investments the government has made in the provision of drainage over the past 5 years to mitigate flooding in various communities, the ministry is aware that there are several other communities in the country where interventions are needed to mitigate flood risks in order to protect lives, livelihood, and property. Mr. Speaker, my ministry has tasked the Hydrological Services Department to undertake a study into the causes of flooding in the Chirpo and Yegi area, carry out engineering surveys, designs, and cost estimates towards the implementation of appropriate drainage systems to mitigate flooding in the Chirpo and Yegi communities. My ministry will also continue to engage the Ministry of Finance to secure the necessary funding to implement the interventions designed. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that the Honourable Member of Pro East and this August House, that my ministry will intensify efforts to enhance resilience of our communities towards flooding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Yes, Honorable Member for Pro East, any supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have read the minister's answers, and I want to find out from the minister whether there are any timelines for when these hydrological surveys will be completed.
Minister, any timelines?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will not be able to provide exact timelines, but I can assure you that within a space of 3 months, they have the capacity to be able to provide these designs. Thank you.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Member.
I want to thank the minister for the answer, but also draw his attention to the fact that Yegita Rules Phase 2 works have commenced, and that it will be important that these works are done so that these remedial works can be incorporated into the current Phase 2 project that has just begun. One, to save the Ghanaian state money, but two, so that we don't have to, we create compatibility between what two agencies are doing. Having said that, Mr. Minister, will you kindly visit Yeji to personally see this challenge, particularly when this is a resettled community, a community that has paid the price for the Volta Dam? Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Honorable Minister, will you personally visit Yeji?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since I resumed office, I've had the opportunity to travel across the country to have experience, first-hand knowledge of the drainage challenges that we have in this country. And Yeji and Chipo area is one of the areas that I've already made plans to visit. Thank you.
Very well. So, Leader, are you saying we are not taking the other question?
Speaker, yes. We had a correspondence. The table office can confirm that. So we have finished with the question related to West and Housing. And Speaker, I will seek your leave, if you permit, for us to vary the order of business. And based on earlier discussions we had, take the two statements that your good self have admitted, one on each side. One stands in the name of the Honorable Samuel Jinapo, and statement one. And then the second statement on the other side. So, Speaker, with your leave.
Very well. Leader, I'm coming. Honorable Member for Boli Bamboy, I think it is fair that we apologize for the minister not to directly answer your question. In fact, the answer is ready, but it's not advertised on the. So the answer is not ready. Well. So, Minister, can you tell the member when your answer will be ready for him to come and take the question?
Mr. Speaker, before maybe the minister comes in on this thing, I just want to encourage our colleagues, especially those who are members of parliament, to restructure how questions are received at their ministry. Because usually they will come and tell you that, oh, we received notice on Thursday. No, you receive the notice much earlier. The Thursday one is after the business statement, then you are reminded that now it's been scheduled. So if you don't structure your office very well, you always intermittently have this kind of challenge. But obviously, you are one that will usually come to the house to answer questions. So we will not try to refuse your application for this to be rescheduled. But I want to plead that if this could be done next week, so that we have some definite time, we'll be most grateful. If you are not sure it can be next week, then give us some definite time, as Mr. Speaker is requesting, so that we can be comforted with that, knowing that this particular day or this very week, we can get the answer from your ministry. But we'll be grateful if you try to streamline how questions are managed within the ministry, so that we can avoid these unfortunate situations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, hold on. I'm told I should indulge the owner of the question just to ask the question, and per the prior arrangement, you are prepared to orally respond to it. You are not going to engender any debate on the question on this question. So, Honorable Member for Boli Bamboy, just ask the question.
Mr. Speaker, should I go ahead to ask the question? Okay, so.
Yes.
Speaker, I think when we allow the member to ask the question, the greatest respect to yourself, it will be inappropriate because the minister has given a prior notification by writing to the table office. I was copied. I copied my colleague. They have notification of the reasons why he's unable to answer the question. So, Speaker, with respect, we should just, as my colleague requested of the minister, if he could give some definite answers in terms of timelines when he can respond to the statement. I think that would be good enough, so that the member should just be patient and wait an appropriate time for the minister to come to the house and answer the question.
Minister, can you give us some timeline as to when you think your answers will be ready?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I should be able to give an indication sometime next week, because as I wrote to the clerk, I'm currently in the process of gathering more information to be able to respond to the honourable member adequately. So by next week, I'm sure I'll be able to provide some indication as to when I'll be able to provide those answers to your questions. Thank you.
Very well. So on that note, Honourable Minister, let me thank you for attending upon the House to answer questions from members. You are hereby discharged. Yes.
Speaker, with your indulgence, if we should vary the order of business and now take the statements as was admitted, the first to be administered by the honourable member for Damango, and after which there is another one on the other side.
Yes, honourable members, let's turn to item number 7. Item number 7, statement time. We have a special invitation that has been extended to me by honourable member for honourable member for Damango to make a statement. I understand he has his students from Damango. Is it Damango? They are all here to witness their member, and I understand the chiefs over there are also coming from his traditional area. So, honourable member, you may make your statement.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to make this important statement as part of our nation's 65th independence anniversary celebration and as part of the Heritage Month.
Honourable member, we want you to come here, come and make the statement here. Yes. Are you also challenging that one?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to make this important statement as part of our nation's 65th independence anniversary celebration and as part of the Heritage Month of March. Mr. Speaker, I have chosen to speak on the Savannah region, its historical and contemporary contribution to the political and socio-economic development of our nation, and what this nascent region offers in this Heritage Month of March. Mr. Speaker, on 18th April each year, the world celebrates International Day for Monuments and Sites, or World Heritage Day, to promote awareness about the diversity of cultural heritage. We in Ghana have, however, adopted the month of March, the month of our independence, as our Heritage Month, to reflect on our history, celebrate our culture and heritage, and promote tourism. Mr. Speaker, the choice of the month of March, and particularly 6th March as the Independence Day of our country, was not a mere coincidence. The day marked exactly the 113th anniversary of the Bond of 1844, which was signed on 6th March 1844, to regularize the de facto powers of the British, which had been exercised outside the forts and castles in the then Gold Coast. By this bond, the chiefs and people of the then Gold Coast recognized the power of the British Crown over them. As the revered nationalist and astute lawyer and one of the founding fathers of our nation, Joseph Boachi Dankwa, explains in his article titled "The Historical Significance of the Bond of 1844," end quote. He said, and I quote, "By the bond, a free people who were not subjects of the British sovereign voluntarily placed themselves under a binding agreement to the British Crown," end quote. Having so voluntarily surrendered our sovereignty on 6th March, it was of great significance that we reclaim our sovereignty on the same date, and it is fitting that the month of March is dedicated to such an important part of our history. Indeed, it was in this same month of March, specifically on 10th March 1873,
29 years after the signing of the bond, that the then Secretary of State for the colonies, the Earl of Kimberley, first made a promise of self-government for Gold Coast. And even though this did not happen until after some 84 years, through the toil of our forebears, self-government was realized on the 6th of March, 1957. Mr. Speaker, the Savannah region, as we all know, is one of the newest regions of our country, created by the Savannah Region Instrument 2019, CI 115, pursuant to Article 5.1 of our Constitution, with a landmass of 46,922 square kilometers. It is the largest region in the country in terms of land size, constituting 1/5 of the total land area of our country. There are over 30 different ethnic groups in the 7 municipal and district assemblies of the Savannah region, namely Gonjas, Chumurus, Newuris, Basaris, Vaglers, Safobes, Mos, Dagabes, Gurunis, Sisales, Grusis, Casines, Bimobes, Tamplumes, Hangers, Brifos, Mares, Pantres, Miwos, Batiges, Dagombes, Concombes, Akans, Hausa, Fulanis, and Batos. These groups have lived together peacefully over the years, intermarrying and building families of mixed ethnic groups. Mr. Speaker, though new, the contribution of indigenes of the Savannah region to the struggle for independence and the development of our nation post-independence is not spoken about enough. When Achilo Samuel William Brymer, father of the late Joseph Adam Brymer, or J. Brymer, as he is popularly called, had the opportunity to receive Western education as one of the first people of Northern Territories under the colonial government's policy of providing education to, quote, intelligent sons of chiefs, end quote, in the 1900s. He devoted his entire life to serving the nation in the then Post and Telegraph Department. It was also through the tenacity and persistent advocacy of the lives of Emmanuel Adama Mahama, also popularly referred to as E.A. Mahama, another proud son of the region and father of a former president of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, that the colonial policy that compelled Northern students to wear smock while their colleagues from other parts of the colony could wear any clothes of their choice was abolished in the 1940s. Again, the late J. Brymer was one of the 5 eminent persons selected to serve on the Kusi Committee on Constitutional Reforms, which led to the 1951 Constitution replacing the 1946 Burns Constitution, which has been described by many, including the first president of the Republic, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, as, quote, bogus and fraudulent, end quote. Indeed, the Burns Constitution, according to the distinguished Yale professor of comparative political and social development, David N.S. Actor, treated the Northern Territories as, quote, the stepchild of Central Gold Coast politics, end quote, with the governor still legislating for the Northern Territories, whilst in other parts of the colony, the Legislative Council was empowered to enact laws. The contribution of J. Brymer and his colleagues to foster a united Gold Coast between the North and the South was therefore crucial and a key factor in the formation of a united Ghana. Later, J. Brymer, together with Yakubu Tali and S.D. Dombo, were sworn in on 24th July 1950 as extraordinary members of the Gold Coast Legislative Assembly, becoming the first indigenous person from the Northern Territories to become members of the Legislative Council. And after the coming into force of the Kusi Constitution in 1951, he was elected as one of the 19 members of the Legislative Council representing the Northern Territories. He was, Mr. Speaker, described by the famous political historian P.A. Lydical as, quote, the principal spokesman for the North and the undisputed leader of the Northern members of the Legislative Assembly, end quote. Although not a member of the Convention People's Party, which formed the government of the day, J. Brymer was appointed a cabinet minister and later assigned to the Ministry of Communications and Works, making him the first cabinet minister from the Northern Territories. It was under his term as Minister for Communications and Works that the preparatory works, design, construction of preliminary roads and rails for the construction of Tema Port was done, together with several other infrastructure developments in the area of energy, roads, aviation, post, and telecommunication. When the independence of our country appeared to be delayed, J. Abraham joined other nationalist leaders to oppose strongly any further postponement of independence. In reacting to the governor's speech in the Legislative Assembly on 15th May 1956, he said, and I quote, "The attainment of independence by this present government during the lifetime of this assembly is but a dream. To them, independence is now a matter for the future, and the future is a land of hills and far distances," end quote. Mr. Speaker, J. Abraham was not the only person from the Savannah region in pre-independence politics. Indeed, E.A. Mahama, another proud son of Gonjala, played a very prominent role in this regard. He, together with many of his northern colleagues, including Lawrence Rosario Abavana, Adam Amandi, Imoro Yigala, and others, teamed up with the first president of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, during the fight for independence. Even though he lost the election to be a member of the first persons from the north to join the Legislative Assembly in 1951, he subsequently entered the Legislative Assembly in 1954, representing the people of West Gonja, an area where I have the honor to serve as his Member of Parliament. He later became Minister for Northern Region and then Minister in the Ministries of Industries, Agriculture, Education, and Animal Husbandry. Mr. Speaker, E.A. Mahama was a stalwart of Ghanaian and Northern politics during pre- and post-independence era. As Minister for Education, E.A. Mahama is credited to have contributed significantly to the expansion of education in Northern Ghana. The two prominent sons of the Savannah region continue to serve in the legislature of the New Ghana, championing the development of the North, particularly in the areas of education and the provision of water and roads. On 20th February 1958, for example, in reaction to a motion on education in Northern Ghana, J. Abraham said, and I quote, "Through what can the government wipe out poverty, ignorance, and disease, if not through education," end quote. Mr. Speaker, from the Second Republic, the lives of Chief Haruna Kebasibe, who served as Minister for Northern Region, and Professor Yakubu Saka, a former Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs in the Third Republic, played prominent roles in the development of our nation. In our contemporary Fourth Republican dispensation, sons and daughters of the region, such as His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, former President of the Republic, Honorable Alhaji Ahmadu Seidu, a six-time member of this august House, and former Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Honorable Alesedi Sofo, also a former member of this House, and Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways, Mr. Issa Ketekeo, former Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Alhaji Mohammed Muniru Limuna, former Minister for Food and Agriculture, Madam Otiko Afisa Jaba, former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Abu Sakara, one-time presidential candidate for the Convention People's Party, Alhaji MND Jawola, a former Chief Director of the Ministries of Finance and Health and former Chairman of the Ghana Football Association, Madam Mercy Ewuntoma Aloba, celebrated and distinguished headmistress of Damango Senior High School, and a host of others, played varied roles in the evolution of our democratic journey. Mr. Speaker, the Savannah region continues to contribute significantly to the socio-economic development of our country. The region hosts numerous tourist sites which are worth mentioning, especially as we celebrate our month of heritage. The famous 4,577 square kilometers Moli National Park within my beloved constituency of Damango is home to more than 93 mammal species, including elephants, buffaloes, cobs, western headbirds, roan antelopes, Difasa waterback, oribi, boho reedback, and red flag duikies, and rare and endangered species including the yellow-backed duiker, black and white colobus monkeys, leopards, and lions. The park is also home to some 334 bird species, 33 reptiles, 9 amphibian species, and some 120 butterfly species. Mr. Speaker, every member of this House And indeed, every Ghanaian should make it a point to visit the park at least once a year to enjoy the serene atmosphere of the park. Mr. Speaker, what is interesting about a visit to the Moli National Park is that you have the opportunity to visit other exciting tourist sites within the same catchment area, including the ancient mosque and mystic stone at Larabanga, also in the West Gonja municipality, the hippopotamus sanctuary at Intereso in the Bole district, the slave market and wells at Salaga in the East Gonja municipality, the Royal Mausoleum for Gonja Kings at Mankuma in the Bole district, the Mass Grave at Gentlepe in the Sola Tuna Kalba district, the Black and White Voter Confluence at Nochira in the Central Gonja district, the age-old inland salt industry and the smoke weaving center both in Daboya in the North Gonja district, the Indewura Japa footprint site at Akamendewura Japa temporary settlement site at Chamawurepe both in the East Gonja district, the serene and peaceful Zena Lodge, a first-class hotel facility within the Moli National Park, is ready to host you on your visit. Mr. Speaker, the Savannah region also presents a lot of investment opportunities. The agroecology of the region and the flat and gentle undulating nature of the land with tracts of lowland fertile valleys such as the Katanga Valley in East Gonja municipality, part of the Fumbisi Valley in the North Gonja district, and the Oti River Basin make the region suitable for large commercial and mechanized agriculture. A wide range of arable crops such as maize, millet, rice, yam, and cassava, cash crops such as sugarcane, shea nut, mango, and cashew, as well as forest plantations like rosewood, thrive in this region. Already, the Forestry Commission is investing in rosewood plantations in Bupe and Bole. I call on the private sector to take advantage of such investment opportunities in the Savannah region. Mr. Speaker, the region also holds vast deposits of limestone stretching from Bupe to Fofoso in the Central Gonja district, gold and other precious metals between Bamboy and Tuna in the Bole district, including the famous dollar power and barrette and brine in Daboya in the North Gonja district. There have also been exploration for hydrocarbons within the Votain.
Yes. Let me give you 1 minute. 1 minute.
I'm most grateful, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this statement. And I do so in very strong solidarity with our distinguished brothers and sisters from the Savannah region. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement, the Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Samuel Abutina for MP for Damango, deserves high commendation for taking full advantage of the Heritage Month to highlight the significant contribution that this important region, the Savannah region, has made to our forward march. Mr. Speaker, this is a development we must commend, and we must encourage many more colleagues of ours to use the opportunity of the Heritage Month to highlight our history and promote our culture, our heritage, and all of what makes us unique as a people. Mr. Speaker, I like the fact that the Honorable Minister takes us through a history of the region, how proud the people they are, how they contributed to the independence of our country, the development and progress of our nation. And it makes for very refreshing historical lessons. And this is a paper that, Mr. Speaker, a lot of researchers will find worthy of reference. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I noticed that the Honorable maker of the statement and a lot of our colleagues who have spoken have rather, as it were, focused on only the male contributions. I don't see the mention of any female so far. I think that that is an oversight that we will have to remedy. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to also place on record that a lot of our northern matriarchs have contributed immensely to the forward march of our country. As a House of Parliament, we cannot forget the first female MP, the Honorable Susan Al-Hassan, who was the first African cabinet minister from the north. The Honorable Hajia Adiza Munkaila, also a very dedicated MP of the CPP tradition. Our own Honorable Hawa Ogede Yakubu, who was so fearless and very, very renowned from the northern region. Hajia Fatih Jaula, who served on the Council of State, and old Achimotan Francisca Isaka, the Honorable Otiko Jaba, the Honorable Joyce Bawa Moktari of the current generation, Farida Bejwe, the software engineer. And Mr. Speaker, I can go on and on with celebrated females who have also supported the men. Our share butter producers, share nut pickers. Mr. Speaker, the economy of the North and the economy of this country cannot be celebrated without the contribution of northern women. The smoke producers, those who weave the smokes, the beautiful smokes that we are all wearing today. So, Mr. Speaker, it has been a great journey of men and women of substance, illustrious daughters also contributing for the forward march of our country. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude because of the time constraints, I just want to draw attention to the fact that we must still be committed to affirmative action. Because of the history of our country, we know that the colonialists ignored the northern territories for so many years. So I am an ardent believer in affirmative action. We must pay attention to ensuring that we lift the northern regions, all of them. If you read the multidimensional poverty index that the UNDP put out recently, the 2020 report, it says out of every 10 people from the northern regions, 8 of them are multidimensionally poor. That is troubling, Mr. Speaker. We cannot accept that. And we also must pay attention to a lot of the fault lines that sometimes leads to conflict, land boundaries, and all of that. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a great statement. We must encourage this practice. I commend the maker of the statement. I salute all the chiefs and the great people of the Savannah region who have come in solidarity with the Honorable MP for Damango. This is a positive development. This is the way to go. And may our country remain united. People celebrate Ghana that despite our diversity, we have never had ethnic strife of the proportions we have seen elsewhere. There's never been civil conflict. And we should keep that unity in diversity. We should celebrate one another. No ethnic group is inferior. No ethnic group is superior. We are all one people with a common destiny. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Leadership. Leadership, 1 minute, please. Yes, 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the comprehensively researched statement that has been delivered ably by the Member of Parliament for the Damango constituency. Mr. Speaker, listening to the statement and listening to contributions of colleagues, I remain amazed as to how the founders of our nation laid the right foundation for us to continue to coexist despite the diversity that we all show, either as people coming from different backgrounds or people speaking different languages. Especially, Mr. Speaker, when you consider the fact that nations that do not have the multiplicity of tribes and languages in Africa have had to engage in civil wars every now and then. Mr. Speaker, when you listen to the contributions here, one thing stands out. It is clear that we remain united as a people with a common destiny despite our differences. And I like the conclusion that was just done by the Member of Parliament for Northton, where he indicated, which is correct, that no tribe, regardless of where you come from, regardless of what you believe in, or regardless of your background, is more important than the other.
we all remain proud of who we are and remain proud of our contributions to the growth of this country. Mr. Speaker, the Savannah region indeed is one of the new regions that have been created with 7 districts to foster development. It is not enough, though, Mr. Speaker, for us to celebrate the achievements that we have made in the past without a focus on what we are able to do moving forward, especially as these regions have been created. Mr. Speaker, it will interest you to know that the Savannah region, as we speak, you know, in the northern part of this country, tend to have the largest forests. For example, the largest forest cover in the northern region is found in the, Savannah region. They have vast land, which has also been spoken to by other contributors. They also have one of the significant water resources that you can talk of. The black volta, the white volta, they all pass through the Savannah region. And these are resources that, when tapped in appropriately, can lead to the development of the Savannah region. Tourism, again, is another area that the region can use to ensure its development. Mr. Speaker, culture and even the traditional authority in Savannah region is an area that many people across the country, especially when we have to deal...
Leader, wind up, please.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'll take a cue. Yes, let me enjoy the post of leadership small.
I'm saying wind up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm saying that if you look at even the culture, the traditional authority, and the ascension plan that they have in the Savannah region, it is one that is so admirable that, given our problem as a country in dealing with, chieftaincy disputes, it is one region that we can learn from and perhaps enrich our traditional authorities in other parts of the country. Thus, there is haste for me to wrap up. I will end my contribution here by thanking the maker of the statement and celebrating all the sons and daughters of the Savannah region, and also perhaps urging other new regions to emulate the commitments that I see in the Savannah region and even existing regions, so that there will be that healthy competition to provide development and progress in our various regions. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Leader, I want to deny you and give your place to honorable member for Abuakwa South. We've heard so much people from the north. I want to hear somebody from the middle belt, the south. So, honorable member for Abuakwa South, you may conclude for us.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with you, but you still need to accommodate me, because my constituency have a lot of relationship with the Gonjala. And if you deny me this opportunity, our forefathers will ask me one day why I didn't say anything.
Yes, member for Abuakwa South. Yes, let me hear you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this well-researched and historical statement. And I have to commend the maker of the statement for his scholarship. I think we are all enriched by what he said, and it reflects well in the answer. Honorable Speaker, one high point of this statement is the one who midwifed the Savannah region. And I'm glad to say that because of the unity of the nation, it was midwifed by the current president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It is a historical point that we should pay him tribute. And what I heard, which is very exciting, that even the great politicians who came out of the Savannah region, some of them were so blessed, they produced a president. I'm making reference to the great E.A. Mahama, who is the father of a former president, His Excellency President Dramani Mahama. And that is something very, very positive, that when you are a good politician, and the Bible says, let everything produced after its kind. And then you give birth to a son, and the son becomes the president. It is a good class for this nation, and it's one of the exciting things we should look at. Honorable Speaker, what is of great concern to me is the statement that the Savannah region is 1/5 of the land space of the entire realm called Ghana. If this is a fact, that the whole of the Savannah region is 1/5 of the entire realm called Ghana, then I'm tempted to conclude that if we pay due regard to this land space and put it to the best economic use, a time is going to come that the region alone will be able to service the needs of the entire nation. It's very, very important. And I want us to all pay attention to the economic potential of that region. If we pay economic potential of that region, very soon we can say that we did not create the region for entertainment value, but the transformation of this nation is referable also to that region. I'm being told about the necessity to pay regard to cashew production. On the international market, one of the nuts that everybody consumes and is very, very, very expensive are cashew. And therefore, whilst we are paying attention to cocoa in the cocoa producing areas of the economy, why don't we also pay great attention to cashew production in the Savannah region, to the point that Ghana will be a net exporter of cashew? Honorable Speaker, this is the only thing we can do to give meaning and significance to the creation of the region. Honorable Speaker, let me just end by saying one thing about the Bali National Park. I'm reliably informed that it's located in the Savannah region. I do not know of any bonding and entertainment and rejuvenation which will be so interested that the entire Parliament one day will trek to Bali National Park, and then we can relax and then have a lot of entertainment. And that will showcase that area also. And people will go there and pay good money by way of tourism to also raise the image of the Savannah region. In concluding, I want to also acknowledge and appreciate the traditional rulers who have made time to come to this august house for purposes of aiding your way to what Honorable Jinapo has said. I'm praying to God Almighty that you have a safe journey back. And also the young ones who made time to come. History is being written, and the examples are there for you to emulate. That the child is the father of the man. And all the good things you have, you can also achieve it. You can come here and one day, one of you seated here will be the Speaker of the House. So you are encouraged to bring out your potential. And I'm glad that there's no discrimination in Ghana now, insofar as the resources are evenly distributed. Any child anywhere can become whatever he wants to be. Honorable Speaker, I'm very, very grateful that you decided that one who is not in the Savannah region, should add to the cocktail. And I think we've had a good time. I'm grateful to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to also add a few words to this statement. Mr. Speaker, I think I have negotiated a bit to be accommodated. I represent the good people of Solomon.
Just finish.
And share boundaries with Savannah region. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement for his well-researched statement about the Savannah region. Mr. Speaker, the Savannah region have a lot of potentials and a lot of tourist attraction. And Mr. Speaker, the people in Savannah region are very lovely. They are very peace, love-making people. They have a history of relationship in terms of the independence of Ghana. If you look at the formation of the Northern People's Party, the J. Brimer Mahmoud Bawumia and Yakubu Kali, they came together with the idea that in terms of Ghana gaining independence, the northern people needed to have a voice. They then formed the Northern People's Party in Tamale, in the Tolena House. And when it was formed, even when they were going for election from 1951 to 1954, J. Brima and that of Yakubu Kali, for their selfishness and their attitude trying to be able to help the northern people, selflessness, they went as independent members to be able to win, to come to add to the 17 seats that the northern peoples had, so that they will be able to have equal representation of the good people of the northern region. Mr. Speaker, at the moment, you see our colleagues from Savannah region. You can see the Minister for Land and Natural Resources. He appeared in a smock, which is very important and a serious identity of the Savannah people. You could see the Member of Parliament for Daboyaman Kargo and that of Salaga North. The only person who didn't appear that is the rather unfortunate, the Member of Parliament for Yape Kusugu, who couldn't show his identity in trying to recognize the Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, because of the relationship our forefathers have, J. Brima, Mahmoud Bawumia, and Yakubu Tale. If you go to Kanda, I am not from Savannah region. If you go to Kanda at the moment, you see J. Brima house. The next house is Yakubu Tale house. The next house is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's father's house. That is the relationship our forefathers had, to be able to have that kind of relationship. Mr. Speaker, now today, we are talking about Savannah region having cement factory, having share nut factory. You ask yourself, where is that region from? It was the wisdom of Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, who thought it wise that the good people of the Gonja land, the Savannah people, deserve to have a region on their own. That is why we have Savannah region now. I pray and hope that moving forward, the Savannah region have produced a president. And next time, maybe a better president should come from this side, but not to allow and to let certain things bring the debate. Mr. Speaker, I was just stating a statement of fact that the president Nana Addo Akufo-Addo created the Savannah region. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable members, 4 people know. We have come to the end of this particular statement. Honourable members, I wouldn't give you the opportunity, please. No. I mean, some of these things you may take it lightly, please. No. I am not calling you, so available leaders, please. Let's move on. So, what do you want to say?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is House of Records. Mr. Speaker, whatever we say here is subject to future references, and students certainly will come one day to review it. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Chief Whip from the majority side in his submission said the Savannah has had a president, and let's pray that we'll have a better president coming from the east side. Mr. Speaker, I take offense with that statement. And I urge him to withdraw. What is the meaning by a better president? Mr. Speaker, it is not right for him to use those words. Mr. Speaker, this is a national statement, and you call on all of us to discuss it. So to say a better president, so Mr. Speaker, with your permission, direct the Hansa department to expound that part of the statement.
So you are not happy with the word better person. So please, let's kindly expound that aspect of it, please. Let's expound that aspect.
Okay,
we move on. Leader, it's okay.
If they are offended,
it's okay. Please. Whip, yes, let's hear you.
Speaker, if you indulge me, indulge leadership, for us to go on to public business, yes. Speaker, I am not going against what was earlier said. Two statements were admitted. Fair enough, no argument. We've taken one. We'll have one on the other side to be taken. But we are just varying the order of business. Take some public business and then come back and do that. It's done. I have spoken to your leaders. Speak to your leaders. Speaker, so we'll go on to page 29 of today's order paper. 29. Of today's order paper and begin on the note of item 43. Speaker, with your leave, ask the Deputy Minister of Finance to take it.
So, honourable members, we are going into public business now. So, let me invite you to page number 29, item number 43. Page 29, item number 43. Let me invite the Deputy Minister for Finance to do the honors on behalf of the Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2021 be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the bill is to provide for the withdrawal of sums of monies from the Consolidated Fund for Supplementary Appropriation to meet government expenditure for the financial year ending on the 31st December 2020, in accordance with clauses 8 and 9 of Article 179 of the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, whilst implementing the annual budget of 2020, which was approved by Parliament in December 2019 to improve the lives of Ghanaians, the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic struck. The pandemic spread with alarming speed, affecting millions of people around the world and bringing global economic activities to a virtual halt. Mr. Speaker, Ghana was not spared either with the effects of the pandemic and its impact, as the pandemic had largely been felt in people's livelihood, businesses, and posed serious fiscal risks on planned programs and activities of government. It restricted movement, disrupted households, and slowed down industry production, with its resultant job losses and reduced household income. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 effects led to disruptions in the global supply chain, extensive supply shortages, attendant increases in prices and reduction in domestic revenues, amongst others. To ensure that the Ghanaian economy is stabilized, revitalized, and transformed to protect lives and livelihoods, and also to address the socio-economic disruptions occasioned by the pandemic, it has become necessary for Parliament to approve a supplementary appropriation of 11,896,477,566 Ghana cedis to be paid into the Consolidated Fund with some specific expenditures. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion and in the process present your committee's report. I request the Hansa Department to capture the full content of the report whilst I take the highlights. The Speaker, as the mover of the motion has eloquently articulated, the bill is to satisfy the requirements of Article 179 of the Constitution, and your committee met with the officials and noted that indeed they had done what is right. Engaging with the committee, with the officials from the Ministry of Finance, Speaker, we found it necessary to make a very minor amendment
And when we get to the consideration stage, I will be seeking your leave, Mr. Speaker, to effect that amendment. In the recommendation, the committee considered that this was necessary, it is a constitutional requirement, and we request this House to give the needed approval. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honourable members, pursuant to Order 127, we are invited, and therefore we will invite, is it two from each side? One
apiece.
Very well. So, yes, Honourable Ranking Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thanks once again for giving me the opportunity to also contribute to the motion that was moved by the Deputy Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, yes, the supplementary appropriations relate to the year 2020. Constitutionally, it stands adjourned, and we expected to consider this in the following year. Mr. Speaker, we are in the second year, so clearly we are breaching the Constitution for not approving the supplementary appropriations bill for the year 2020. Mr. Speaker, my concern relates to the fact that for the year concerned, the year 2020, we all agree that there was COVID. Mr. Speaker, the quantum of amount that this government decided to appropriate, Mr. Speaker, was a bit too much. Mr. Speaker, I say this because Ghana became an outlier compared to our neighbors as a result of these very supplementary appropriations that we are being called upon to approve. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 8.9 billion Ghana cedis was allocated for the purposes of the additional expenditure for the year. Mr. Speaker, as a result of that, the fiscal deficit became 15% approximately, 15% for the year 2020. Our debt stock rose, Mr. Speaker, and it's part of the reason why we are here today with economic difficulties. Mr. Speaker, even apart from the 11.8 billion, the Ministry of Finance went ahead and spent additional 1 billion, approximately, in excess of the 11.8 billion that we allocated. Mr. Speaker, as for that one, at the right time, we'll revisit it. But Speaker, let me say, as much as we all believe that this is just a matter that we should all approve, but there are major concerns. The concern is that an amount of 11.8 billion being additional expenditure for 1 year, apart from the amount of 44 billion we had already allocated for the year concerned, the Speaker, was a bit too much. Was a bit too much. And that is why today our public debt has risen to a level that we call it a debt overhang. The Speaker, going forward, we should learn from this and not to hide behind the pandemic to overspend, because in the end, it will catch up with you. The Speaker, I will wait when we get to the process, and if I have any further questions, any further comment, I'll make it. But at this point, the Speaker, I think that's something that we should all accept and let it go.
Very well. One from this side.
Mr. Speaker, it's important, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's important that we understand what we are being invited to approve. Government came here, this House gave government approval to spend additional resources for the year ending 2020. What we are asking the House to do is to see whether the bill before us reflects the approval we gave to government. I am therefore scandalized, Mr. Speaker, that anybody will be speaking of over expenditures when really we are being invited to consider whether the bill reflects the approval. I think it reflects the approval. It reflects the approval that we gave. We checked at the committee level in the presence of my good friend, the ranking member, and we all agreed that this indeed reflects the approval, and therefore we should pass it into law. I am not sure why anybody will want to be talking about over expenditures. I hope the records will be so corrected. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, please. So, honorable members, at the conclusion of the debate, the question is as many as are in favor say aye. Those against say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it.
An act to provide for the withdrawal of sums of money from the Consolidated Fund for Supplementary Appropriation to meet government expenditure for the financial year ending on the 31st December 2020.
Honorable members, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2021 is accordingly read a second time.
Speaker, shall we now go on to item 44 and again seek your leave for the Deputy Minister of Finance to take it?
Very well. Honorable members, let's turn to page number 29, item number 44. The procedural motion. Yes, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 1281, which require that when a bill has been read a second time, it shall pass through a consideration stage, which shall not be taken until at least 48 hours have elapsed. The consideration stage of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2021 may be taken now. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, I second the motion.
Honorable members, the motion has been moved. The motion has been seconded. This is procedural motion. The question is as many as are in favor say aye. Those against say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is carried. Yes.
Speaker, item 45, consideration.
Yes. Consideration. First, no me. Yes, honorable members, we are at the consideration stage and we are inviting the first deputy speaker to take the chair. Cross one. It appears there's no amendment, so cross one.
Supplementary appropriation for the financial year ending on 31st December 2020.
Have some attention. Yes. Read. No amendment.
Mr. Speaker, we have only one amendment for the short title. We do not have any other amendment in any of the clauses, so you can put a question.
So that notwithstanding, I mean, each clause should be mentioned. Yes. So clause 1.
Supplementary appropriation for the financial year ending on 31st December 2020.
Honorable members, clause 1, there's no amendment. So the question is, as many as are in favor of the clause, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable member, clause 1 stands part of the bill. Clause 2.
Commencement.
Clause 2.
Commencement.
Honorable members, there's no amendment, so as many as are in favor of clause 2, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, clause 2 stands part of the bill. We move to clause 3. There's no clause. We move to schedules. So now we move to the schedules.
Summary of Central Government Operations 2020.
Honourable members, I'm advisor we are the schedules, all right? Schedule 1A.
Summary of Central Government Operations 2020.
Very well. There's no advertised amendment to the first schedule. All in favor of the first schedule being a part of the bill, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The first schedule is ordered to stand part of the bill. The second schedule.
Economic Classification of Central Government Revenue 2020.
All in favor of the second schedule being a part of the bill, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The second schedule is ordered to stand part of the bill. The third schedule.
Economic Classification of Central Government Expenditure 2020.
All in favor of the third schedule being a part of the bill, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The third schedule is ordered to stand part of the bill. The fourth schedule.
2020 Revised Appropriation Compensation of Employees and Goods and Services.
All in favor of the fourth schedule being a part of the bill, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The fourth schedule is ordered to stand part of the bill. The fifth schedule.
2020 Revised Appropriation Capital Expenditure.
All in favor of the fifth schedule being a part of the bill, say aye. All against that, say no. The ayes have it. The fifth schedule is ordered to stand part of the bill. The short title.
2020 Supplementary Appropriation Act 2021.
Amendment proposed. Yes, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment proposed. At the beginning, delete 2020. It should be Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2021. The 2020 beginning, that expression is not needed, so it's amended out. Thank you.
All in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Now, the question is, the short title as amended shall stand part of the bill. All in favor, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The short title as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. The long title.
An act to provide for the withdrawal of sums of money from the Consolidated Fund for Supplementary Appropriation to meet government expenditure for the financial year ending on the 31st December 2020.
All in favor of the long title being a part of the bill, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The long title is ordered to stand part of the bill. That brings us to the end of consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2021. Yes.
Speaker, if we may now move on to item 46, and with your leave to be taken by the Deputy Minister of Finance.
Yes, item 46, motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the motion listed as item 46 on today's order paper be moved today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Ranking Member.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Honorable members, the procedural motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor of the House adopting the procedural motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The procedural motion is adopted. Item number 47, Supplementary Appropriation Bill, motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2021 be now read a third time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Honorable members, all in favor of the motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it.
An act to provide for the withdrawal of sums of money from the Consolidated Fund for Supplementary Appropriation to meet government expenditure for the financial year ending on the 31st December 2020.
Honorable members, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2021 is really read a third time and passed. Yes. Honorable.
Speaker, we should be going to page 5 on today's order paper and take item 11 for question to be put. Item 11, page 5.
Very well. It's for question to be put. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, the understanding was that we will be putting the questions for motion 11, 13, and 14. So if you can put them all together, that's the understanding we arrived at. So you put them all together. And
very well.
Thank you.
Very well. Very well.
Honourable members, the question is that all in favour of the motions numbered 11, 13, and 14. All in favour of those motions, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motions are adopted.
15.
Very well. Item number 15, a resolution by the Minister. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution captured as item 15 on pages 7 and 8 of today's order paper be adopted now. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Who is seconding the motion to adopt? Chairman of the committee or ranking member? Who is? Yes, ranking member.
Mr. Speaker, this was the motion we took yesterday, the rescission motion. So, Mr. Speaker, I second the motion. I second the motion.
Very well. Honourable members, all in favour of the House adopting the resolution numbered 15 on today's order paper at page 7. Say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The House has adopted the resolution numbered 15 on page 7 of today's order paper. Yes.
Speaker, with your leave, if we have business, and revert back to questions and take question advertised in the name we will go on to item. We have an outstanding statement. There were two statements earlier admitted by the Speaker. So, Speaker, we have one outstanding on the side of our colleagues. So, if we may take that statement, after which we'll revert back to questions.
Yes. Is it the statement in the name of the Honourable Member for Nadolesoa, Honourable Member for Ladari Kotopo? Is that right? Is that the statement? Very well. Yes, Honourable Member, you may read your statement.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. This is a tribute in memory of His Royal Majesty Ni Dr. Kobitetetru La Manche and Paramount Chief of the La Traditional Area. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to pay tribute to the memory of His Royal Majesty Ni Dr. Kobitetetru III La Manche and Paramount Chief of the La Traditional Area. Mr. Speaker, the late Ni Dr. Kobitetetru was known in private life as Eliezer Ni Osa Kobi. He was born on Thursday, 3rd October 1929 at La to Mr. Ludwig Odrey Kobi from Kobi Way, Kwei Kota, Lumoshishin, and Mrs. Christiana Anyecho Kobi, also from the Abese quarter of La. All of blessed memory. He was a direct grandson of His Royal Majesty Ni Kobitetetru II La Manche, who originated from Kobi Way and reigned as La Manche from 1877 to 1900. Mr. Speaker, born into a strict Christian family, the late Ni Dr. Kobitetetru III was baptized and confirmed into the Presbyterian Church at the La Bethel Presbyterian Church, where his father was a presbyter. He had his basic education at the Presbyterian primary and middle schools at Emmaus La, before entering the Presbyterian Boys Secondary School at Odumase, now Presec, now at Legon, for his secondary education, obtaining both the Cambridge School Certificate and London matriculation in 1950. In the late 1970s, the late Ni Dr. Kobitetetru III entered the Ghana School of Law and was awarded a certificate in law, non-professional, into bracket. In 1989, he enrolled at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA, for a diploma course in senior management. He returned to Gimpa again in 2002 to participate in a distance learning program. Mr. Speaker, after leaving school, the late NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III was employed at the then Audit Department, now Audit Service, as a second division clerk. Whilst in the Audit Department, he successfully completed a series of professional accountancy courses run by the Civil Service in 1961, was posted to the Long Room at Jamestown, Accra, a branch of the then Customs and Excise Department, now Customs, Excise and Preventive Services, SEPS, the highest revenue earning department in the country on account of his honesty. When the Department of National Lotteries was established in Ghana, NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III was transferred from Customs to the newly created Financial of the Ghana Civil Service, and the honors tax was upon him in setting up the accounting systems, not only for the Department of National Lotteries, but also the defunct Football Pools Authority, both of which share the same premises. Mr. Speaker, by dint of hard work, the late NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III rose through the ranks to become the Director of the Department of National Lotteries, and in this position introduced other games of chance in the lottery business. In 1981, he was appointed an executive member of the International Association of State Lotteries. Mr. Speaker, the late NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III ascended the last two as one of the paramount chiefs of the Gas State on 30th April 1988, and has since been a member of the Greater Accra Regional House of Chiefs. He also served a 3-year term at the National House of Chiefs from 1991 to 1994. At the establishment of the Kentucky Trust, the trust which gave birth to the Gadangme Council, the late NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III became the chairman and was an instrumental figure in its formation. During his 32-year reign as paramount chief of the La traditional area, there was relative peace and stability in the La township, and the other towns that fell under the La paramountcy, namely Madina, Oyarifa, Adenta, and among others. This, Mr. Speaker, extended to positively affect the peace and stability enjoyed by neighboring communities, Osu, Teshin, and Nungwa, among others. Mr. Speaker, his reign also saw a number of positive tribes within the La traditional area through his leadership and the relentless efforts of the Traditional Council, as well as prominent La citizens. The La Township has been blessed with a municipal assembly, which has been known as the La Dadikotopon Municipal Assembly, simply called LADMA. His achievements, Mr. Speaker, has created job opportunities for the people of La, and has also undertaken a lot of developmental projects in the La Township, such as the newly constructed La Market. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to note that the late NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III, together with the La Traditional Council, participated in various state functions whenever invitation was extended to them. It was not therefore surprising that government conferred on the township the status of a paramountcy, an action which means a lot to the township and the local administration. It is also worthy to note that the late NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III has been the first paramount chief of the La traditional area, and history would forever remember his achievements in that capacity. Mr. Speaker, it is recalled that at the time of his installment as La Manche in 1988, the palace for La chiefs was in a deplorable state, thus inhabitable. With the attainment of the paramount status, the late NEE Dr. Kobitetechu III championed the construction of the La Traditional Council office building. Today we have such an edifice where council members sit to receive state officials and other dignitaries to day operations and administration of the council. Mr. Speaker, another important groundbreaking achievement worthy of mention under the reign of the late Dr. Kobi Tetechu III is the La Community Clinic under his leadership, together with the traditional rulers and the La Mansamope, obtained a piece of land where it has constructed its office premises, community clinic, and recently established Latenu radio station. And that is the place we also have the La Polyclinic, which is currently serving the people of La. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, these developmental projects has created avenue for employment for the La State and has also established a source of revenue for other developmental projects. Mr. Speaker, as one who knows the worth of education, the late Dr. Kobi Tetechu, together with the traditional authorities of the La State, pushed for the establishment of a senior high school in the La community. Their efforts paid off with the blessing of the La Presbyterian Senior High School, known as La Presec. The instrumental role played by the Office of NILA and traditional authorities is written in gold in the history of the school. He was awarded an honorary doctorate degree in law by the University of Ghana, Legon, and has since been participating in the university's various activities and programs. Despite his commitment to work and globetrotting to conferences, seminars, and workshops, the late Dr. Kobi Tetechu III was a family man extraordinaire. He found time and space for the family and was a beacon of light for the Kobi and allied families as well as the entire community. He believed in the commonwealth of the family, education, and a good name. He availed himself energy and resources to nurture the entire family as well as other citizens of La. He ensured that each gate of the family received its fair share of his counsel, mentorship, education, and necessary support. And I am one person who received so much from him as his granddaughter, and during my tenure as MCE, he supported me so well. Mr. Speaker, the late Dr. Kobi Tetechu III celebrated the 2018 Omowa Festival of the La People as his 30th anniversary celebration of installment, together with Ni Oboda Adai La Mankralu and Ni Yamudin II La Akwashonche on Saturday, November 17, 2018. Just after the 30th anniversary celebration, Ni started complaining of ill health. His health deteriorated faster, and on 3rd February 2019, he was admitted at the 37 Military Hospital until the morning of 4th February 2019, when God in his grace peacefully called him to glory. Mr. Speaker, his demise has indeed created a vacuum in the La traditional area and by extension in the Ghana states. This is a loss not only to the people of La, but a loss to the country as a whole. It is my prayer that God give us the fortitude to accept his loss. Mr. Speaker, the burial and the funeral rites are underway, which started on the 14th of March, Monday, and viewing or filing past is ongoing. His burial service will be held on Friday, 18th March 2022 from 9 a.m. at the La Royal Palace. Mr. Speaker, I wish to invite honorable members to come and mourn with us, the people of La Dadekotopon, especially members of parliament who are constituents of Dadekotopon. Ni La Ko, Ni Ho, Ni Kobi Tetechu III, Ho, Ni Yawo Jubang, Yanu Cholemni, Nila, rest in perfect peace. Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
The Honorable Member for Ododo.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity granted me to contribute to the statement ably made by my sister, Honourable Rita Odole-Soa, in memory of our illustrious...
Honourable Member, sorry, can we hold on? Honourable Members, having regards to the state of the business of the House. I direct that the House sits outside the regular sitting hours. Now you may continue.
Thank you very much once again, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity granted me to contribute to the statement ably made by Honourable Member of Parliament for Lada Dokutopon, Honourable Rita Odolesowa, in memory of the loss of our illustrious Chief King of the La Traditional Area, Honourable Dr. Ni Kobitetechu III. Right Honourable Speaker, I had a rare opportunity of knowing this loving, caring chief when I qualified for the first time to go to secondary school. I had never traveled beyond Kwame Nkrumah Circle before. So, on advice of Nico Bitetechu, we went for a release from Legon Presec, and I was sent all the way to Bechem Presec. Initially, I thought it was a punishment, but having grown up, I've come to realize the wisdom in the decision of Nico Bitetechu in advising my grandmother to take me out of Accra at that time. Because I came back to Accra to see many of my contemporaries at that time in certain conditions that are not worthy to be mentioned. Today, if we've lost Nico Bitetechu, one special area I will want to remember him is the many times I met him and his passion for the development of Gamashi, the Greater Accra region, and especially for the people of La. He was always concerned about the need for us to transform the coastal line of Accra into a tourist attraction. He so many times engaged with the Assembly to make sure that we protect the coastal line from sand winning and from people who go to defecate at the place. He always was concerned about the compensation needed to be paid for the various lands belonging to the La Traditional Area which have been taken over by government. And he will always enumerate. Special mention of the land taken over for the trade fair site. He thought that if the people of La will be given what they are due, they could use it to develop the La community much more better than we found it. He has great interest in sport. Right, Honourable Speaker, I want us to take note of the fact that today when we have women football in this country, it was through the instrumentality of Nico Bitetechu, who helped form the first female soccer team in Accra, the Lotteries Ladies. Then we had only one female soccer team in Kumasi, Fabulous Ladies, which was led by then Abiba Atta. And he founded Lotteries Ladies, and they were playing matches among themselves before other ladies football clubs emerged in Ghana, and today we have serious development in women's soccer. Nico Bitetechu used as the head of the then football authority to see how we could use the revenue that will come from the football pools for the development of sports and football infrastructure in the country. He also brought to fore his support for car racing, that he talked to the trade fair authorities to cede part of their land for car racing because he had interest in car racing. He thought one day he could bring safari even to Ghana. I remember very well when he established the Lotteries football team that participated in the Industrial Area Football Association League, then called Indafa League, producing players like Sandro Fiakwa, Razak Ajini, Kwesi Ajra, Adona Balabi, and a host of others who played for Accra Sofo, Great Olympics, and other teams in the country. In fact, through lotteries, a lot of stars emerged, and some of them had the opportunity to play for our various national teams. NILA was so much concerned about the peace and stability of Accra. And it's worth noting that after the difficulties we had with the chieftaincy disputes in La, especially during the reign of the late Ni Anyete Kwakuranya, he brought peace and stability to the chieftaincy in La traditional area. Mr. Speaker, he is gone, and I know people like you and others here will remember when we are having national ceremonies and there was time for us to lay wreath or light the perpetual flame, how he will majestically walk to do and to perform these functions. It was so good and so attractive that he did almost every state function. He was the one who will be called by the late President Jerry John Rawlings to light the perpetual flame and to lay the wreath. As we celebrate him and say farewell to him, some of us, people who have admired him over the period, will continue to stand for the ideals and objectives he set himself. And I'm happy my brother, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, is here. I want to use this occasion to urge him to respond immediately to the fight of Nico Bitatetru, that compensations due and lands that have been taken over by government but which government have no use now are restored to the people of La so that they can use it for the benefit of the people. On this note, I join my sister to say, Ni Yawaduba, Obachu, Oshise Uduba, Omedeshwe, Obachu Kofitai, Numabono, Nekono, Ni Dinfeno Due, Ewe Ibi Papa, Yomanemi. Fare thee well, our illustrious king. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member for. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Namongo. Yes, I wanted to confirm the conference in Namongo. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this statement. And let me, Mr. Speaker, first of all, thank the maker of the statement and to say, Mr. Speaker, that as Deputy Chief of Staff, I had the opportunity of interacting with Dr. Ni Podbitetechu III on several occasions. And indeed, some of the matters out at the time, some of the matters or briefs that I was assigned to work on related to matters to do with lands, the lands issue, the very controversial, famous land issues. Little did I know, Mr. Speaker, that I'll be given this onerous responsibility of being the minister responsible for the lands of our country. The Speaker, he was a man of enormous dignity and wisdom, and my interactions with him were extremely engaging and fruitful. It's just so unfortunate that when I became Minister for Lands, I didn't get the opportunity to engage with him. Mr. Speaker, but on the substantive issue of lands, Mr. Speaker, let me say that a lot of work has been done on that matter. And indeed, I've had multiple interactions with the La Traditional Council and several other organs of our state. And we are working around the clock to ensure that these matters are resolved. But Mr. Speaker, I think it's also important for us to acknowledge that when it comes to the matters to do with lands, public lands, compensation for lands, ownership of lands, allodia title, usufructuary title, and the matters relating to lands, the issues involved are complicated and in many cases are complex and requires a lot of skill and tact to unravel them, and which is exactly what we are doing. Mr. Speaker, my able deputy minister, Honorable Benito Owusu-Bio, is been working tirelessly on this particular matter. He chairs a committee from government side that is engaging the La Traditional Council, and I'm happy to report, Mr. Speaker, that some considerable progress is being made. And as I speak to you now, we are before the presidency. And as you know, pursuant to Article 257, I think, of our national constitution, public lands are vested in the president. So whatever we do with public lands will require the express imprimatur of the president, and which is why we've beseeched the presidency for an engagement, for an approval for us to be able to move forward. So, Mr. Speaker, a lot of work has been done about land. We've had a lot of difficulties. The Honorable Deputy Minister will tell you about the sometimes who to deal with and the matters of locus and so on and so forth. But we are trying to tidy all of them up. I want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, by making the point and doing so forcefully that issues of land tenure, land administration, public lands are, with the greatest of respect, not peculiar to Accra. They are not peculiar to Greater Accra. All over the country, I've visited all the 16 regions of our country, and I've had the opportunity of interacting with all the 16 regional houses of chiefs of this country. And there's not been a single regional house of chiefs I've appeared before where matters of lands, acquisition of lands, compensation, and all the issues relating to land have not been brought to my attention. So what we are seeking to do is to have a holistic, equitable, comprehensive resolution of matters to do with lands in our country. Mr. Speaker, that is why I'm happy to report that we've set up a committee chaired by Honorable Andy Appiah-Kubi, who himself is well versed in matters to do with land administration, to look at all the matters relating to vested lands across our country. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the provisions of 1036 requires that within 6 months after the promulgation of that act, vested lands ought to be examined and recommendations made to the president. That is exactly what we are doing. Mr. Speaker, the government of President Akufo-Addo is working tirelessly to resolve the matters to do with lands, Greater Accra lands. In fact, a good number of them have been returned already under President Akufo-Addo. Considerable number of lands have been returned to the people of La under President Akufo-Addo. And other regions, considerable tracts of land have been returned to chiefs in various parts of our country. But we will holistically and once and for all resolve this age-old problem of land tenure in our country and the agitations of our chiefs. We are working day and night to resolve it once and for all. These are systemic, endemic problems from 1957, but this government is determined to resolve them. As I say, we've done a lot already on this matter, and we'll continue to work for the people of Ghana. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the maker of the statement.
I'm advised that the leader may need to travel, so I'll give him after that I'll come to you. Yes, Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the to the statement of eulogy ably presented by the Honorable Ritana Adolesowa, Member of Parliament for the Dadikotopon constituency, for the memory of Ni Dr. Kopi Tetechru III, the La Manche and Paramount Chief of the La Traditional Area. Mr. Speaker, as we have been told, he ascended the throne in 1988. He has remained a respected member of the Greater Accra Regional House of Chiefs and have contributed immensely to major reforms in government land relations. He's contributed immensely to some understanding. Mr. Speaker, is the view, and as observed by the Honorable Minister for Lands and Forestry, that what belongs to the, I wish I could say it in Ghana, what belongs to the Ghana people must return to the Ghana people when it comes to matters of their land. That is what we can do in memory of Dr. Kopi Tetechru III. That government must relate well with traditional rulers across the country, and in particular with the traditional authority within the Greater Accra region, particularly for those lands. Mr. Speaker, we are told every day, compulsory acquisition. Yes, you acquire those lands compulsorily. The same Constitution in Article 20 provided that there must be fair, adequate compensation paid to them. So, Mr. Speaker, to his memory, I think that government must reach out to additional authority in understanding, Mr. Speaker, what you stated yourself, allodial title holders and its relationship with what happens today. In many instances, the state have failed to compensate the traditional rulers, including the people of land, for their lands. And in many instances, the request is that return it back to us, because the public purpose for which you acquired the land is no longer the purpose for which you are holding on to the land. I hope that in his memory. Mr. Speaker, let me just share this personal experience, and I'm happy I saw a picture of the president together with the minister and others in Dubai when they signed what has been celebrated as 1 billion trade fair development facility. Mr. Speaker, this we must do to support the memory of Dr. Kobi Tetechu III. Mr. Speaker, it's been on the drawing board since my days at the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Mr. Speaker, I returned from a trip from Yokohama, Japan, where I studied the concept of a trade fair being developed into a convention center, and then you have hotels attached to it, you have residential accommodation as part of it. I just hope that, Mr. Speaker, I'm not provoking you to join the debate, but if you recall, you had a friend who at the time, either the wife or somebody was chairing the trade fair at the time, as my memory serves me right. So you know what I'm speaking to. At the time, we're talking about massive development of the trade fair, acreage over 90 acres, into a modern convention center, including housing. But Mr. Speaker, why I've had to say this, I invited Dr. Kobi Tetechu to my office as Minister for Trade to sign a similar deal as the President have signed now. At the time, we're looking at 1.2 billion US dollars. But the chief, Dr. Kobi Tetechu, advised me that government hadn't paid compensation for the trade fair lands. So, Mr. Speaker, the best thing we can do to the memory of Dr. Kobi Tetechu is for government to pay an adequate compensation to the people of land and to develop the trade fair into an enviable infrastructure that the investor so provides. I mean, so it warms my heart when I saw you sign the agreement. This was thought through a decade ago to develop the trade fair facility into a modern convention center, and probably to encourage those of you working with the president. You can study the concept in Yokohama, which is a brilliant concept of what you can do with that particular land, and it can serve our purpose. So, Mr. Speaker, a giant of a respected traditional ruler have passed on. Our condolences to the bereaved family, to the people of La. He served this country as a statesman, played many roles, and Mr. Speaker, we can't take it away from him. He was a very peaceful person, and his calmness inspired peace in the people of La. Let his death awaken government to a better and improved relations with traditional rulers, particularly the chiefs and people within the greater Accra region, who are laboring that those lands you took, for which you are not using it for the public purposes, return it to us. Mr. Speaker, with these comments, may his soul rest in perfect peace. I'm told that there will be a parliamentary delegation to visit the funeral home to pay our respect to him. And Mr. Speaker, as I have said, Dr. Kobi Tetechu dedicated his life in the service of his people, and I trust that he will rest in the bosom of his Lord. Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Speaker.
Leader, and then after that, Honorable. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to the statement made by my able honorable member for La Dabi Kotopon, Honorable Rita Na Odole Sowa. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Kobi Tete Chulu has paid his dues. He has worked with all government in this Fourth Republic. He started with Rawlings, he worked with President J. Kufuor, he worked with President Atamils, he worked with President John Dramani Mahama, then he worked with this current government. Mr. Speaker, he has served the good people of La Dabi Kotopon, Greater Accra, and Ghana at large with respect and humility. Mr. Speaker, he was a chief with enviable records. He was concerned about development of his traditional area and his people. Mr. Speaker, honestly speaking, he was a servant leader who sacrificed his personal comfort for the common good of his people. Mr. Speaker, he must be celebrated even though he is physically dead. His good deed will forever remain with us. Mr. Speaker, I join the good people of La Dabi Kotopon to mourn the chief, and then I joined the MP to work out everything that they will need in the constituency to make sure this funeral ends up very successfully. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity, and I will say, oh, keha wekue, drie, kekusie, keha amefen. May his gentle soul rest in perfect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Yalaso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a La citizen by marriage, I rise to associate myself with the tribute ably paid to the late Rita Odole Sowa. Indeed, as we mourn with the people of La, Honorable Rita said something that Nila achieved many things for the people of La. I remember him as a very humble man, and I remember a dichotomy when he was first installed as a chief. He was a great Christian leader in the Presbyterian Church, and the church didn't see why a church leader should be a chief. The traditional leaders also didn't see how a chief could be a church leader. That was the conversation in many homes at the time. But Nila has been able to break that glass ceiling and has set an example that indeed a Christian leader can be a great chief, and a great chief can be a Christian leader. Mr. Speaker, as previous speakers have said, he championed many things for the people of La. I recall he spearheaded the return of the aviation lands to the people of La. Interestingly, it was the sale of lands that got a section of the people also unhappy with him. But, Mr. Speaker, the man has done a lot for his people. We are extremely grateful. The people of La have lost a great leader, a great chief, and I join them to say, Nila, po, yawo, yenuchole me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Very well. Honourable members, I'm advised that tomorrow Parliament will pay its last respect to the late La Manche. At 9 a.m. on the dot, we are expected to be at the funeral, but we'll meet here at 8. We'll meet here at 9. We'll take off from here at 9 a.m. So we encourage all members particularly from Greater Accra region, to join the leadership of Parliament to pay our last respect to the landlord of the Parliament House. Yes. But it is our practice that we observe a minute silence in honor of the late. Shall we rise? May the soul of me, Dr. Pobite Techuru III, and the souls of all the faithful departed rest in eternal peace. Amen. Yes, Honorable Chief.
Speaker, if we should go to page 23 of today's order paper, and start with item 38. Speaker, I'm reliably informed that we got to the concluding part of the debate. So I'm told 2 persons, one from each side, to conclude the debate.
Yes, Honorable Deputy.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I thought the Attorney General has a question to answer. And we agreed that he was going to do that when he comes. Since this is also his business, why not let us get the question answered? Then we'll move to this. No, you can, we'll come to the, that one is the concluding debate. Yes, we will take the conclusion of the debate. Except that you just don't have the number to take a decision on it. Yes, I'm saying, yes, you conclude the debate and leave the question.
My colleague, when we were ready, the person in whose name the question is advertised, unfortunately was not in the chamber. He just walked into the chamber. I just cited him. He wasn't in the chamber as at the time when I was speaking. So, Speaker, no problem. We could take the question, after which we'll come and take that motion.
Oh, well, kindly advise me which question, what's the number of the question to be taken? So, which question? Question number 1.
Question number 5, C. C for Camel.
An urgent question. Very well. Yes, the Minister is taking a seat. The Honourable Member for Medina, Francis Xavier, so you may ask your question, urgent question.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I rise to ask the Attorney General and Minister for Justice the measures being taken to ensure safety in our law courts in the light of the recent accidental discharge of firearm at the law court complex in Accra.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, discharge clearly was accidental, and I'll proceed respectfully to set out the relevant matters that led to the discharge. The Speaker, at 11 a.m. on 23rd February 2022, the High Court Criminal Division 5, presided over by Her Ladyship Justice Lydia Osei-Mafo, sitting at the law courts complex, sat to hear the case Republic versus Samson Agato, aka Romeo, and then also Elvis Ogoji, Jeff Omosa, and Yusuf Yakubu. One of the prison wardens, Stephen Foley, who escorted the accused persons to court, had his weapon accidentally discharged. The registrar of the court immediately informed the court manager, who informed the head of police at the law court complex, Chief Inspector Olivia Cedro. Cobra Stephen Foley, who had injured his ankle in the process, was rushed to a judicial service clinic on the ground floor to receive treatment. The matter was then reported to the Ministry's police station. 3 officers of the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, were immediately dispatched
to begin investigations and gather the relevant evidence. The CID officers are Detective Inspector Isaac Opare, Detective Sergeant CP Dako, and Private Constable Solis Agli. The corridors in the courtroom were cordoned off accordingly. The matter was reported to His Lordship the Chief Justice and the Judicial Secretary. His Lordship immediately directed that a press statement be issued to allay the fears of the public. The following day, 24 February 2022, His Lordship the Chief Justice notified the Minister for National Security about the incident. An officer of the National Investigations Bureau, the NIB, was immediately dispatched to begin investigations. The Director General of the Prison Service also met with His Lordship the Chief Justice and an officer from the NIB at the Law Court Complex on 24 February 2022. He informed the Chief Justice that investigations were underway, even though preliminary indications pointed to the fact that the incident clearly was an accident. Certain safety measures have been adopted since then. Currently, 3 institutions, the Police Service, the Prison Service, and the NIB, are investigating the matter, and the Judicial Service has requested recommendations on measures to take to avoid the recurrence of the incident. In the meantime, all court warrant officers have been directed to inspect sidearms and guns of officers entering the court to ensure that weapons held by them are securely latched. Further, prison officers are also undergoing training by the Prison Service in the handling of live firearms and ammunition in and around the courtrooms. Copies of the reports on the ongoing investigations and the measures adopted by the Judicial Service thereafter will be made known as soon as they become available. The Speaker indeed have copies of the incident report, the letter to the Minister for National Security, and the press statement issued by the Judicial Service accordingly, and if necessary, have house. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, no follow-up question, please.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask the Minister of Justice and Attorney General whether there is any timelines for the investigations that have been commenced, so that it doesn't become like one of those investigations that we never receive feedback on. Are there any timelines, and are we expected to see some responses from the investigating officers very soon?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Speaker, the police have not set any timeline, but it being a matter not so complex, I expect investigations to be concluded maybe within the next 2 weeks, and then the report will be made. That's just an estimation I'm making. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, would the Minister for Justice and Attorney General and the various security forces consider a policy that would not require the use of such heavy firearms in the courtroom or at the presence of the court to avoid the said incidents that happened on this occasion?
Mr. Speaker, I doubt whether there will be such a far-reaching measure. And it's also very important to indicate that this is the very first time such an incident has occurred in the history of the Judicial Service. And I do not think that this incident alone will warrant such a measure, because we have incidents in the past where prisoners have attempted to escape from courtrooms, jumping various floors onto the ground and escaping. And we don't think that in the circumstances it's necessary for us to adopt the measure that my dear friend and the honorable member is talking about. Thank you very much.
Very well. That's it. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honorable Minister for Medina for such a critical question. And I want to ask another question. Mr. Minister, please, what measures did you take considering the psychological impact such an accident will have on the sitting judge? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I do not know if the question was what measures will take to avoid the recurrence of the incident.
No, what measures are you taking to ensure psychological stability of the judge?
Mr. Speaker, indeed, following the occurrence of the incident, counseling was actually offered to some of the court clerks as well as the presiding judge, her ladyship, Cecilia Mafo. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. The incident in question, even though happened in respect of a security officer, it tells us that it's possible other individuals who entered the courtroom with weapons. Apart from Accra, other court premises don't have a set point when you are, and scanners when you are entering the courtroom. I can mention all the high court premises in the regions, especially. And so, for me, this incident drives home the point that we should have, we should have systems where we can scan private persons and the general public when they are entering our courtrooms, so that in the future we can avoid some of these things. But once it happens in respect of a security officer, it presupposes that other persons or other miscreants who may want to enter the courtroom with some.
Let me ask you a question, please.
So my question is, would they consider installing scanners at entry points to courtrooms in other regions? Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Speaker, the security situation around the courthouses are being reviewed and have been enhanced. But I believe that it will definitely have a link with the budget allocation to the judicial service. At the moment, the focus really is ensuring access to justice, and that's why the government has built about 100 courthouses. Thank you very much.
Very well. Thank you for turning upon the House to answer questions. Is there any other question for him? Honorable Minister, I don't know which questions have been asked and which one is not asked. Very well, you are discharged.
Speaker, we should be going to page 23. Today's order preparing take item 38. Item 38, Speaker. Page 23.
Item or motion number, item 38. Yes. Motion. Yes, Honorable Member for.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I believe we have reached a very important stage of this bill, and it is important that we have the numbers to consider the bill and bring it to its finality. Looking around in the chamber, we do not constitute half of the members as enjoined by the 1992 Constitution, for which this House should be clothed with the authority to take a major decision concerning the freedom and liberty of people who may fall foul to the law. I'm referring in particular to Article 102. Thank you. If you are conversant with it, I think you have helped me to finish my work. Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the issue is in your bosom and we await your direction. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Speaker, I'm reliably informed by the chair to the committee that the last time we got to the conclusion of the debate, and it was agreed that two persons or two members, one apiece, should conclude that we can cross it as such.
Are you referring to motion item 38?
Certainly, Speaker. Item 38 on page 23 of today's order paper.
Right. It is indicated here, debate to continue. Yes, who is to speak? I am hearing the debate. If you want to contribute after him, I'll give you the floor. Yes, Honorable Member for.
Well, Ms. B, I thought he said he's asking for guidance. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to contribute to the debate, but may I remind my colleague, I'm not sure you are referring to the right issues in that particular.
Can you continue?
Just to correct you.
It was for me to rule. I deliberately did not rule.
Okay.
So please proceed.
I thought I should remind you. Okay, I'm grateful to the Speaker. You did it on purpose. Mr. Speaker, this is very important. The whole criminal jurisprudence of the country, Mr. Speaker, needs a good scrutiny. I think we started from somewhere, particularly with this. The rationale behind this, looking at the memo to the bill, Mr. Speaker, is really to ensure that as much as possible, the resources of the country, of the courts, talking about the courts, the judges, and indeed the public purse, Mr. Speaker, is not expended. I wouldn't say unnecessarily, but it's not expended on issues that can reasonably be resolved without a full-blown trial. There is an issue in Section 35 of the Court Act, which I may have misinterpreted, I may have misunderstood, but which had panicked me. I had understood that to be that whatever you steal as much as you want, public money or whatever, and you go to court and you're able to tell the court and the prosecutors that you are prepared to return the money, they let you go free. I haven't quite understood that. This seems to be an entirely different ballgame altogether. This is the case where the bill clearly states the procedures to be followed. Speaker, in the end, if it is decided that it's a case for bargaining, then the court decides, of course, the prosecution and the accused person, ultimately the court decides what is to be done. It's not simply looting. It's really not a license to the looting brigade at all. You don't loot, go away, and then eventually you return the money, you regurgitate it, you vomit it, and then you're supposed to go scot-free. It doesn't work like that. Speaker, it's a case where the courts, together with the parties, particularly the prosecutors, decide that this may be a case which is appropriate for a plea bargain. It's all over the place, particularly in the American jurisprudence. We keep hearing plea bargain. I think the British thing, it's also in the British system. Though I don't remember it being so clear. I don't quite remember that one. But the American thing is very clear. Plea bargain. Simply come up with some terms which are acceptable to the prosecutors, eventually to the court, which then relieves the system of having to expend all the energy, money on seeing it through to for prosecution. I think it's a good one. Let's have a good look at it, which I think we are doing now. I'm just disappointed that my friends, the numbers, look at the number is fine, so we can continue and then put a question there. Everybody is here now. So I am happy to contribute to it, and I would also sit down and then help my colleagues go through and make sure that we conclude the debate and possibly also go through the consideration. So much, not very few clauses that need amendment. But in all, I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. What has troubled me, Mr. Speaker, is looking at it. The Attorney General is sitting by me. He would probably, in the fullness of time, explain. And I see that in his amendment that he's brought, he's suggesting that this clause, the 162Q, subsection 1, subclause 1, should be deleted. I don't quite understand what it means by that. Who? The minority said it should be deleted. Forgive me. I do you considerable injustice. Forgive me. I didn't quite read it well. Well, they won't have their day. You can't have that deleted. The ranking member said the whole of that should be deleted. Mr. Speaker, I won't speak to the ranking members. I thought it was the Attorney General. If it is the ranking member, we'll make sure that it is not carried. It's not carried because it's repugnant. Did I listen to what? Well, I'm responding to you as if you are the deputy speaker. You are not. I answered to the presiding deputy speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think it's about enough. We'll get on with it. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Are you going to contribute? I thought I recognized him first, but he is an honorable member for the Bongo or Tongo? Talensi.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think that my colleague made a very big mistake by referring to the numbers being insignificant. The 1992 Constitution, Article 104, is very clear about issues of this nature. So if you are making an appeal, you go straight to make an appeal, but to say the numbers have increased, and as we sit here, we don't constitute up to half the number. You made a comment to that effect, and that is why I want you to understand that I am talking about the Constitution and not from BT Baba as an ordinary member. So let's respect the Constitution and work with the Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable FM. Switch off your mic, please.
Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to add my voice at this stage in terms of the adoption of the report, and pray that that be done so that we can move to the consideration stage of the bill. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I believe that the entire plethora of Article 19, which is on fair trial, will be taken into consideration seriously when we get to the consideration stage of the bill. Particularly, Mr. Speaker, because if you look at the amendment being proposed to the bill as advertised, indeed, we seek to, in fact, enlarge clause 162A, subclause A, subclause 1, subclause A, B, and add a C. And Mr. Speaker, the C is to the effect that we will reduce the punishment for an offense charged. And these are very serious matters. The danger is that once the bill is saying in A to reduce an offense charge to a lesser offense, or to withdraw a charge against an accused person, and a C, which is to reduce the punishment for an offense charged, the danger is that we may stray out of, or we may stray below the minimum prescribed punishment. So we need to take that into consideration seriously and look at it. Again, also, it's likely to become a bargaining tool, and that is not the intent of this House. It's supposed to serve very serious purposes in criminal prosecution, so that we can go through the small fish and get to the big fish. That is the essence of this bill. So, Mr. Speaker, with these words, I want to urge the House to adopt the report as submitted, and so that we can move to the consideration stage and deal with the bill. I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Minister for Justice.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And I would like to express my general gratitude to the House for the consideration of this bill. It constitutes an important innovation in the criminal jurisprudence of the country, and criminal procedure generally. The Speaker, even though members generally expressed approval for such a bill, there was indeed a grave reservation raised by the Honourable Ranking Member with regards to the exceptions that have been set out in Clause 162Q. The Speaker, in principle, the Honourable Member raises issue with why there ought to be exclusionary clauses. My respectful answer is that indeed this bill was a product of wide stakeholder consultations and engagement with various persons, legal practitioners, scholars in the legal profession, civil society organizations and all. We collated a number of opinions from relevant institutions. The major institutions which contributed were the Ghana Police Service, Ghana Prison Service, the Narcotics Control Commission, and the Ministry of Interior, as well as other civil society organizations. Mr. Speaker, the generality of views expressed was to the fact that there ought to be exceptions to the plea bargaining arrangements that we're seeking to strike statutorily. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the generality of those views was also anchored on various public policy considerations. And I will review, respectfully, that much as we ought to be liberal, we ought not to be overly liberal. And I also made the point that indeed it is important to enact legislation that is account of the views of the public. The laws that we enact, with all respect, do not have to be out of step or out of sync with considerations by society. And if the general expression is that there ought to be exclusions or exceptions to plea bargaining arrangements that we strike under the statute, I think that we ought to respect that view. At the point that, indeed, the consideration must clearly be with regards to the interests of society as well as the concerns for the vulnerable. If the House takes a careful look at the exceptions that we have detailed under 162Q, they relate to three categories of offenses. The first category is the violent offenses: murder, hijacking, piracy, genocide, and what have you. The second category is the very deplorable sexual offenses: rape, defilement, and kindred offenses. And then also we talk about electoral offenses. In my respectful view, these are offenses that hold a lot of revulsion for the society. And I think that if care is taken, or if care is had to the general repulsion or abhorrence of society for sexual offenses, as well as violent offenses like murder and all, the House will have no difficulty at all but agree with me that indeed there ought to be a preservation of Clause 162Q. Mr. Speaker, I would say that the enactment of Clause 162Q would definitely not be alien at all. In other Commonwealth jurisdictions where there has been plea bargaining introduced into the criminal procedures of the country, there are exceptions. In India, plea bargaining is introduced by Section 265A and 265B of the Code of Criminal Procedure. And the House will note that indeed subsection 3 of the Indian statute makes exceptions for offenses that they categorize as affecting the socio-economic conditions of the country. So it is, if I may quote respectfully, it says plea bargaining does not apply to an offense affecting the socio-economic conditions of the country. Committed against a woman, and committed against a child below the age of 4. I would say that, having regard to this, the House will note that the exceptions that we seek to create are actually much narrower than as prevails in India. Offenses affecting the socio-economic conditions of a country clearly will include stealing, fraud, and other economic offenses, and those are so broad. And then offenses committed against a woman, that is very broad. I'm sure that in this country, a person will actually move that such a provision will be unconstitutional. But in India, it exists. And as I said, it is clearly taking account of the specific concerns of the country and the need to protect the vulnerable in society. Then, the Speaker, we go to Kenya. Kenya also incorporates plea bargaining into its criminal procedure code. And that is by section 137A to 137O of the criminal procedure code, cap 75. And the criminal procedure plea bargaining rules of 2018 as well. Under subsection 7, the court will note, the House, will note that there has been an exception granted to A, sexual offenses, including rape, attempted rape, sexual assault, defilement, gang rape, indecent acts with a child or adult, child trafficking, child sex, tourism, child prostitution, child pornography, incest with male persons, and incest with female persons, and B, offenses of genocide, war crimes, and war crimes against humanity. And I ought to remark, even before I forget, that in respect of offenses like piracy, clearly they are international crimes. They are crimes that have international recognition, and Ghana is actually about now to enact specific legislation dealing with piracy. It is therefore important that we preserve piracy, genocide, and other offenses from the application of plea bargaining rules or procedures. The Speaker, the last example I would like to quote is also from California. California has exempted plea bargaining from being applicable to driving under the influence of alcohol and then also drug offenses. And that clearly takes account of the peculiar circumstances of the country. They recognize the immense harm that is caused by drug offenses as well as people who drive under the influence of alcohol. Mr. Speaker, I would say that in conclusion, we really have to have regard to the abhorrence the Ghanaian society feels for offenses like murder, and that is why it is not for nothing that capital punishment is being recognized by the Constitution of Ghana. And I believe that indeed, if there is even a referendum conducted on murder, or whether there should be a repeal of the death penalty, the country will vote against such a bill. Mr. Speaker, I would say that we ought not to be overly liberal, and we ought to proceed cautiously. We ought not to enact a bill which adopts plea bargaining without any boundaries or without any limitations, and we must have firm regard to the generality of views expressed by civil society as well as practitioners in the legal profession and scholars, and preserve clause 162 of the bill. I thank you very much.
Very well. What do leaders want to do? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you may be very much aware, we have gone long past the 2 o'clock. We didn't anticipate double sitting, and unfortunately, as it is, maybe now we are done with this. We have a lot of questions. We don't have the number to take a decision, so we may want to plead with our colleagues to let us adjourn to tomorrow. So hopefully, if we come in the morning, we may get opportunity to put questions to this and maybe be able to progress. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I will.
Speaker, I accede to the request by the minority whip for us to put hold on the question and further adjourn the House tomorrow.
Very well. The question on the second reading is deferred. Now, is there any other matter you wish us to consider?
Because of the announcement we had put out earlier regarding the funeral and the fact that leadership and other members will be paying our last respect, I don't know if it will impact the time we will sit tomorrow. Probably we should sit at 11 in the morning or noon, preferably. So we should sit at noon.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree to my colleague Majority Whip. If tomorrow is the turn of Parliament to far pass, I mean, the La Mancha is not just an ordinary chief. It's important we pay our last respect. So maybe we should target to see between 12 and 4. So that we start sitting at noon. noon. That's in the 12. So we target. Come again.
My advice is that we would leave here by 9. By 9:30, we should be able to leave there by 10:30 or 11 at most. And so we can sit at 12. We can sit at 11 rather than 12. Yes. Right. It's going to be a short ceremony. And so, very well, I'll bring proceedings to a close. Then, the House is accordingly adjourned to Thursday, 17th March 2022 at 11 o'clock in the forenoon.